Chapter 109. There would definitely be valuable treasures. The risk and treasures of the previous mansion wars were proportional. Needless to say, the huge black dragon was a priceless treasure. But could they take this treasure? Even if all the elites of the entire Nether Island went, the result would be the same, not to mention their 2,000 people. An upper-tier 8th-rank black dragon was comparable to a human warrior at the peak of the Emperor realm. The difference in this realm could not be made up for with numbers. If Yaokaka and Mangon wanted to slay the dragon, they would probably be slain by the dragon. But there was always something wrong. Long Sinan did not dare to be careless. She sent out scouts to closely monitor the whereabouts of Mangon and Yaokaka. She also sent out countless teams to the 10 gathering points that Yi Qinghan and the others had agreed on. They were to receive the elites of the 4 clans who had teleported to the illusory forest. In the past prefectural battles, the teams would usually fight separately. Very few teams would join forces to fight together. This was a habit, not a rule. For generations, the higher-ups of the battle god dwellings of the demon race and the barbarian race had treated the battle god dwellings as a form of training. They wouldn't really target the opponents who were at the same level as them. They were all big shots, so they should have the demeanor of big shots. They did not care about their subordinates fighting for points and treasures. They did not want to participate too much. After all, their lives were very precious and they did not lack anything. They did not need to risk their lives and fight for points and treasures. But this time, Mangon and Yaokaka broke the rules first. Long Sinan would not be polite. She used her strength at the peak of the Marquis realm and her identity as the only daughter of the dragon to gather all the teams of the House of Ares in the chaotic battlefield. This was so that they could respond to sudden situations and be ready to fight at any time. Yaokaka and Mangon would not be stupid enough to slay the dragon. Yesterday, they had been busy for a whole day. In the end, they did not succeed. Instead, they were tricked by the 4 clans. Not only did they lose soldiers, but they were also in a difficult situation. At that time, they were so angry that they were about to go berserk. Looking at the red dot in the crystal ball, they wanted to chase after him and continue their journey of hunting him down. They wanted to take revenge and take the sacred tool as well as 2 Qianjuan's favor. However, the team had suffered heavy casualties and morale was low. They had no choice but to return to their temporary base camp to rest and reorganize. On a night a few days later, they once again welcomed a guest. It was a messenger from the Divine City. The messenger of the Divine City brought them 2 pieces of news. One was very bad, and the other was very good. Yi Qinghan and the others were teleported to the Black Dragon Valley. Moreover, they seemed to be very safe and comfortable in the Black Dragon Valley. The Black Dragon in the Black Dragon Valley seemed a little abnormal. It seemed to be giving birth. After Yaokaka and Mangon had witnessed the ferocity of the Silver-Moon double-headed wolf, they were naturally even more afraid of the Black Dragon, which was even more ferocious. Moreover, over a month ago, Yaokaka had gone to the Black Dragon Valley to hunt Yi and the others. He had personally witnessed the terror of the Black Dragon. It was an existence that could not be defeated. Now that Yi Qinghan was hiding in the Black Dragon Valley, they naturally did not have the guts nor the strength to kill him in exchange for a sacred tool and a favor. However, if the Black Dragon was really giving birth, then they definitely had the guts and the strength to twist the whiskers and kill Yi Qinghan who was hiding inside. Moreover, that young master from the Divine City seemed to really hate Yi Qinghan to the bone. In order to encourage Yaokaka and Mangon to go to the Dragon's Cave to kill Yi Qinghan, he actually raised the stakes and increased the number of sacred tools to 3. Therefore, Yaokaka and Mangon did not think too much about it. The next day, they gathered their men and surged towards the Black Dragon Cave. The 2 of them thought hard for a night and finally made a decision. This matter could be done, and it had to be done. Since it had already been done, they had to finish it. Therefore, they decided to bring some people to take a look. If things were not as the Divine City's emissaries said, they would retreat. The Black Dragon Valley was located in the middle of the chaotic battlefield. After a few days and nights of rushing, Yaokaka and Mangon's army finally arrived outside the Black Dragon Valley. Hearing the occasional dragon roar from within the valley, the two of them did not feel the slightest bit afraid. Instead, they revealed expressions of ecstasy. The divine city's emissary's information was correct. This dragon was indeed giving birth. After the two races sent out a few scouts to investigate, they once again confirmed this information. The scouts entered the valley. Although they did not dare to approach, they discovered that the giant dragon was lying in the first huge cave on the left side of the valley, howling nonstop. From afar, the giant dragon seemed to be in great pain as its body was constantly trembling and twisting. The giant dragon that was giving birth was extremely weak and did not even have 50% of its strength. With the army in their hands, they were completely unable to slay this dragon. Thinking about the sacred weapon that was within their reach and the giant dragon that was covered in treasures from head to toe, the two of them were in an extremely good mood. Therefore, they hurriedly ordered to set up camp and cook. They rested for a night and prepared for the official start of the dragon slaying journey the next day. The temporary base camp of the House of Ares. In a cave that was not very wide, it was filled with dozens of people. Outside the cave, there were even more people who were ready to set up camp. I just received news that Yaokaka and Mangon each brought over 1,000 people and are setting up camp outside the Black Dragon Valley. There is an unusual dragon roar coming from within the Black Dragon Valley. Furthermore, it seems that this black dragon has been roaring for a day and a night. In the middle of the cave, a heroic-looking woman spoke slowly when she saw that everyone had gathered. The leaders of the teams in the cave fell silent. They all had different expressions as they pondered over the meaning of this statement. Looks like the news is correct. Mangon and Yaokaka have really joined forces. This is simply impossible. How can the monster race and barbarian race join forces? A team leader was the first to speak. He frowned and his expression was very complicated. A few days ago, Long Sinan began to gather them and told them about what had happened to the teams of the four clans. For a moment, they could not believe it. It could even be said that they could not believe it at all. If an unknown person had told them that the monster race and barbarian race had joined forces, they would definitely have sent him flying with a kick and treated it as a fart. However, the source of the news was Long Sinan, the only daughter of House Master Long and the strongest person in this prefecture battle. Therefore, although they still had some doubts, they had already begun to take this matter seriously. Today, Long Sinan gathered them again and once again informed them that Yaokaka and Mangon had gathered at the Black Dragon Valley. Therefore, they no longer doubted the authenticity of this news. Instead, they began to think about the reason for their alliance. In the past prefecture battles, there had been cases of two prefectures joining forces. More than 300 years ago, there was an incident where the monster race and barbarian race joined forces. However, that was because an extremely powerful person had appeared at the House of Ares, Yi Ruoshui of the Yi family. Back then, Yi Ruoshui had relied on her unique sacred beast and body fusion combat technique to kill in all directions. She had killed so many people that the monster race and barbarian race could not raise their heads. In the end, the monster race and barbarian race were forced to join forces to fight against the House of Ares. Chapter 110. At this moment, Yi Qinghan's mind suddenly heard a voice that he hadn't heard for a long time, causing his chaotic thoughts to jolt. Following which, his face revealed an ecstatic expression as he exclaimed, "Blackie, you've finally finished cultivating?" Long Shuailu, who was sitting to one side, had a worried expression on his face. He said with some doubt, "This matter is very strange. Although the teams of the four clans have killed many members of the monster race and the barbarian race, they shouldn't have caused such a big commotion. Moreover, they joined forces yesterday and almost killed the four family squads. Why did they run to the Black Dragon Valley today? What is their plot?" As soon as Yi Qinghan's words fell, a black stream of air suddenly emerged from his chest. The air slowly condensed and finally took shape, transforming into a jet-black lion-nosed dog with a single horn on its head. Is this dragon crazy? It has been howling for several days and nights. Isn't it tired? Yi 17 leaned against the side wall of the cave and shook his head helplessly. For the past few days, they had been listening to the continuous roars of the dragon. They had not had a good night's sleep. The battle and running a few days ago had already exhausted them mentally and physically, and now they were even more exhausted. It's called Xiaohei, the soul-devouring beast. You are not outsiders, so I summoned it. Previously, because there were too many people and Little Black had just passed its weak period and needed to cultivate for a period of time, I didn't summon it. Just now Little Black sent me a voice transmission. It said that it knows what happened to the black dragon outside. What is wrong with the black dragon? Should I find a way to go out and take a look? Maybe this is a chance to escape from the black dragon cave? Yi Qinghan silently thought to himself. After staying in this cave for several days and nights, barely surviving on dry rations, he felt like he was about to go crazy. From time to time, images of Yi and the others who had died tragically appeared in his mind. His little sister, who was sleeping in the mountain behind the Yi family, flashed across his mind. Of course, Yi Qinghan and the others did not know that more than 2,000 barbarians and demon race members had gathered outside the Black Dragon Valley. They also did not know that the Black Dragon was giving birth. They could only stay in the cave and listen to the dragon's roar in fear for several days and nights. Yi Qinghan, your beast is so cute. I can actually transmit my voice to you. That 7th grade snow fox of mine can only understand my words. Furthermore, it was injured last time and has been recuperating. Otherwise, I can summon it to play with Xiaohei. Yi Qingwu smiled, her eyes curved into crescent moons. Oh. Long Sinan sighed and said helplessly. Originally, she had an indescribable feeling that something would definitely happen at the Black Dragon Valley. She had held this meeting today to see if she could lead a large group to investigate. However, everyone was of the same opinion at the moment, so she didn't dare to act rashly. She could only give the order to wait and see. Miss Long, quickly send out more scouts to investigate the situation. We can discuss the plan again. That little worm is laying a dragon egg. Xiaohei twitched his nose and said in a childish voice. Yi Qinghan was stunned for a moment, then told everyone what Xiaohei had said. The 4 of them were immediately stunned. Looking at the 3 of them looking at him as if he was a fool, Yi Qinghan said helplessly, Xiaohei, come out. We are all on the same side here. Strange, so strange. Yi Qinghan's sudden voice startled Yi Shisan and the others. Looking at the joyful Yi Qinghan, they looked at each other in confusion and felt that this was strange. Yi Qinghan reached out to pick up Xiaohei and said to the 3 of them. Since leaving the Yu family, Xiaohei had told Yi Qinghan that he had just entered the growth stage and needed to cultivate for a period of time. He would fall into a deep sleep the rest of the time, unless he was forcefully summoned by the battle beast fusion. Today he finally woke up on his own. Yi Qinghan was also very surprised. For a time, everyone expressed their views and opinions, but basically, everyone maintained an attitude of waiting to see what would happen. After all, the alliance between the monster race and the barbarian race this time was too strange. Of course, they didn't dare to act rashly. It was just that there had been several alliances in history because one of the prefectures had an extremely powerful figure. What was the reason this time? Well, that's all we can do. Everyone, set up camp here for a period of time. Also, pay close attention to the movements of the monster race and the barbarian race. Let's wait and see. Yi Qinghan and Yi Qingwu rolled their eyes. These words were indeed of a high standard. As one of the strongest existences in the elite prefectures, the Black Dragon had actually roared continuously for several days and nights. It would be strange if there was no problem. However, no one knew what the problem was, nor did they have the guts to investigate what the problem was. I know what the problem is. Hello, boss. Yi Qinghan was suddenly awakened by Xiaohei. His depression from the past few days had lessened a bit, and his mood improved slightly. He lovingly caressed Xiaohei's head. Thinking of what Xiaohei had just said, he couldn't help but ask in surprise, Xiaohei, you just said that you know what the problem is with that dragon? Powerful. A holy beast is indeed powerful. It can even communicate through the soul. Yi 17 gave a thumbs up, expressing his astonishment and admiration. Xiao Hei's first appearance had already shocked the three of them. Yi 13th and Yi 17th's mouths were wide open and his eyes were bulging. Yi Qingwu covered her mouth. They knew that Yi Qinghan's war beast was a holy beast. They also knew what this holy beast looked like. However, they had never imagined that the legendary holy beast would look like this. Didn't they say that it had been in a weakened state for a long time? Why was it still so small? Other than the slightly exposed horn on its head, it was exactly the same as a lion-nosed dog. More than 100 years ago, there was an alliance between the monster race and the human race. The reason was also because the barbarian god of that generation had an extremely high cultivation. The House of Ares and the monster god's palace were suppressed to the point that they couldn't even lift their heads. In the end, the two prefectures were forced to ally against the barbarian god's palace. No matter what the reason is, no matter what their purpose is, what we need to do now is to gather all the forces of the divine battle abode to fight against the demon race and barbarian race. Let's wait and see. Shui Wuheng was sitting in the seat next to Long Sainan. He was still dressed in white and held a folding fan in his hand, looking elegant and graceful. Yi 13th and the other two raised their eyebrows at the same time. They looked at Xiao Hei with even more astonishment. How could this holy beast be so magical? It had been staying in Yi Qinghan's war beast space all this time. It even knew that there was a dragon outside. Most importantly, it even knew what was wrong with that dragon. Yes, this is a big matter. We must investigate it thoroughly. Yes, young Master Shui is right. It is impossible for the monster race and barbarian race to truly ally. Moreover, they will definitely suffer heavy losses in this trip to the Black Dragon Valley, regardless of whether they succeed in slaying the dragon or not. Naturally, their alliance collapsed on its own. There must be something wrong with this dragon, and it's a big problem. Yi 13th was also very tired and listlessly said some nonsense. Xiao Hei. As soon as Xiao Hei came out, he straightened his body and stretched. He blinked his eyes and threw himself into Yi Qinghan's arms. He sent a message to Yi Qinghan happily. Chapter 111. Laying dragon eggs? It's giving birth? Yi 13th and Yi 17th looked at each other and were even more confused. Yi 13th asked, "It doesn't take days and nights to lay dragon eggs, right?" If it's really giving birth, then we have a chance to escape. Yes, Xiao Hei, who would lay a dragon egg for a few days and nights. Yi Qinghan also frowned in confusion as he spoke. Xiao Hei jumped out of Yi Qinghan's arms and straightened his body on the stone slab. He stretched his two chubby front paws behind him and slowly circled the stone slab a few times, causing Yi 13th, Yi 17th, and Yi Qingwu to be startled. Xiao Hei then transmitted his voice. "Boss, do you remember when we were in the Savage Mountain Range? I told you that us soul-devouring beasts and dragons are natural enemies, and the information about dragons in my inherited memories is very detailed. Therefore, I can conclude that this dragon is definitely laying dragon eggs, and this time it's giving birth to twin dragon eggs. As for why it's taking so long, it's because this little worm actually gave birth to a dragon crystal when it was giving birth. That's right, it must be a dragon crystal. I can even smell the alluring scent of the pure heaven and earth energy in the dragon crystal. Twin dragon eggs? Dragon crystal? What's that?" Xiao Hei said that the dragon gave birth to twin dragon eggs this time, and it gave birth to a dragon crystal. That's why it's taking so long. Yi Qinghan frowned. He didn't understand and turned to Yi 13th in confusion. Dragon crystal? Yi 13th's eyes widened as if he remembered something. He stared at Xiao Hei, who was standing upright on the ground, and shouted, "Xiao Hei, are you sure there's a dragon crystal? Oh my God, we're rich, we're rich." 13th, what's a dragon crystal? Yi 17th touched his nose and looked at Yi 13th in confusion. He didn't understand why Yi 13th, who had always been mature and steady, would suddenly lose his composure. "Let's go, 17th. Let's go and get the dragon crystal. It's the most precious treasure in the world. This dragon must be extremely weak when it gives birth. If we can get the dragon crystal, our strength will skyrocket. We might even be able to break through to the Emperor realm." At that time, we can do whatever we want on the Nether Island. Seeing Xiao He nod like a human, Yi Shursen didn't explain much. He pulled Yi 17 along and ran out. If you want to die, go ahead. Xiao Hei's nose twitched as he transmitted his voice again. Yi Qinghan was so frightened that he quickly pulled back Yi Shursen and Yi 17, who were rushing out of the cave. I can sense that there are 2 little worms outside. With their strength, it's not even enough to fill the gaps between my teeth. If there was only 1 worm, I would have gone out to snatch the dragon crystal. Moreover, even if they managed to get their hands on it, they would need to cultivate in seclusion for at least a year or 2 in order to break through to the Emperor realm. By that time, the prefecture battle would have already ended. Yeah, 2. Hearing Yi Qinghan's words, Yi Shursen wiped the cold sweat off his forehead, shrank his body, and hurriedly walked back in embarrassment. However, he still didn't give up and asked, Xiao He, are you sure there are 2? Yeah. Is the dragon crystal that hard to refine? If you don't believe me, you can ask him to try. Xiao He shook his head, turned his head away, and didn't say anything else. Shursen, what is a dragon crystal? How can it help us break through to the Emperor realm? You should know that breaking through to the Emperor realm requires one to comprehend the laws of heaven and earth. If the dragon crystal contains a huge amount of energy that can help us break through to the peak of the Duke realm, then it's reasonable. However, the barrier between the peak of the Duke realm and the Emperor realm is something that many people can't break through in their lifetime. Yi 17 was still confused as he revealed all the doubts in his heart. That's right. Yi Qinghan and Yi Qingwu also looked at Yi Shursen in confusion. They knew that reaching the Emperor realm required one to comprehend the laws of heaven and earth. Just cultivating battle chi alone would only allow one to reach the peak of the Duke realm. How could a dragon crystal be so magical? How could it directly break through to the Emperor realm? Yi 13 shook his head with a look of regret. After a moment of silence, he said, What a pity! What a pity! Entering a treasure mountain and returning empty-handed. What a great pity! Actually, I don't know the specific reason. I only found out about it by chance. You all know that once you reach the peak of the Duke realm and comprehend some laws of heaven and earth, you can break through to the Emperor realm. The peak of the Duke realm is easy to cultivate. No matter how talented you are, as long as you reach the Duke realm, you can reach the peak with hard work. However, comprehending the laws of heaven and earth depends on one's comprehension ability. Some people can achieve enlightenment in one night, while others can't even touch the threshold for their entire lives. However, things aren't absolute. There are many magical things in this world. For example, young Master Han's sister, Yi Qingyu's jade spirit body, and the dragon crystal that Xiao He mentioned when a black dragon gives birth. Of course, there are other treasures that we just don't know about. The jade spirit body and the dragon crystal are 2 treasures that have a high chance of helping a peak of the Duke realm break through to the Emperor realm because they contain the laws of heaven and earth. For example, the dragon crystal contains a vast amount of energy that can help you advance to the Emperor realm, as well as a trace of the laws of heaven and earth. You only need to slowly refine it and comprehend the laws of heaven and earth contained within it. Then, you can break through to the Emperor realm. This is too magical. Yi Qingwu's eyes were seeing stars as she listened. Her pink little mouth opened and closed seductively. Xiao Hei's bright eyes spun a few times. Suddenly, he transmitted his voice again. The thing is good, but I can't get it. If I eat this dragon crystal, I can probably reach maturity more than half the time. Moreover, it might even have other uses. What a pity, what a pity. Yeah, that's right, boss. Xiao He seemed to suddenly remember something. He blinked and suddenly jumped behind Yi Qinghan. Then he extended his little claws and fiddled with them. Finally, he grabbed a few almost transparent worms from Yi Qinghan's hair. Then he transmitted his voice. What are these worms? I helped you get rid of a few in the barbaric mountain range. Why are there more worms now? Worms? Why do I have worms on me? Yi Qinghan looked at the transparent worms on the ground, which were the size of rice grains. He was a little confused. Although it was normal to take a bath every 10 days to half a month on Hades Island, There shouldn't be worms growing on him. Moreover, they were such strange worms. Yi Qinghan, you are so dirty. You have worms on you, Yi Qingwu said with a horrified and disgusted expression. Bang! Yi Shursen stared at the worms on the ground with hatred on his face. Suddenly, he stretched out his palm and slammed it against the wall. The cave shook and mud flew everywhere. Yi Qinghan and Yi Qingwu were shocked and even more confused. I understand now. Damn it, Shui Wuhan, that little bastard. How dare you attack me from behind? Get out of here. I will kill that kid first. Yi Shursan's eyes also showed deep hatred. His face was a little ferocious. It seemed that he had a deep hatred for the worms on the ground. Shui Wuhan? Yi Qinghan and Yi Qingwu looked at each other and were shocked. Worms, the Shui family's worms. They were specially used for tracking. Chapter 112. F***CK. We should have killed him at the Yu family. Yi Qinghan's face turned cold as he said coldly. After thinking for a short while, he had understood many things. The mystery that had been bothering them for the past few days had been solved by Xiaohe with the help of these bugs. No wonder the monster clan and the barbarian tribe could plan ahead and surround them. No wonder the monster clan and the barbarian tribe knew their whereabouts like the back of their hand. All of this was because Shui Wuhan had planted the invisible bug on him. When they were being chased a few days ago, they had suspected that the monster clan and the barbarian tribe had mastered some kind of heaven-defying technique that could track their whereabouts. Who would have thought that the Shui family's young clan leader, who was also at the House of Ares, would dare to join forces with the monster clan and the barbarian tribe to kill them? No! Yi Shursen thought for a moment and suddenly said, Shui Wuhan is not that influential to persuade Yao Kaka and brute force. Moreover, he has no direct hatred with Feng Zihua, Hua Zhenhua, and Yu Qingqing. Besides the monster clan and the barbarian tribe killing us, Hua Zhenhua and the others would only incur the collective anger of the four families. There are too many suspicious points in this matter. Shui Wuhan cannot be killed. I'm afraid there is a conspiracy this time. 17. Qinghan, bear with it for now. Anyway, we have the evidence in our hands and can destroy Shui Wuhan at any time. I think this matter is not that simple. After the house battle, let the clan leader and the others investigate and deal with it. If the Shui family is also involved in this matter, I'm afraid the 5 families will become the 4 families. Papa. Yi Qinghan nodded. His face was already gloomy. He did not speak, but the joints between his fingers made cracking sounds. Yi Shursen chuckled, and the corner of his mouth twitched. Let this kid live for a few more days. Shui Wuhan, you are dead. Outside the Black Dragon Valley, Yao Kaka looked at the familiar valley in front of him and listened to the dragon roars in his ears. He felt a little complicated. More than a month ago, he had led his men to kill a small team from the House of Ares and had come here as well. At that time, he didn't think too much and rushed straight into the valley, wanting to slaughter the entire human team that had stolen his treasure. However, as soon as he entered the valley, he didn't see a single trace of the human team. Instead, he was greeted by a furious black dragon. Fortunately, they didn't venture too deep last time and brought only loyal subordinates with them. Under the protection of their subordinates, they were lucky enough to escape. Although the small team from the House of Ares had gone crazy for some reason a few days ago, they had actually helped the small teams from the 4 families to resist them. They had all been slaughtered, and he had vented his anger. However, he still had a lingering fear towards the Black Dragon Valley. Once again, he came to this place to hunt down a kid from the House of Ares called Yi Qinghan. He felt a lot of emotions and was about to express his emotions, which meant that he, Monster Kaka, was back. However, Mangon had already begun to gather his men, preparing to enter the valley. He could only retract his thoughts and wave to the subordinates beside him, indicating that they were ready to enter the valley and begin slaying the dragon. The red dot in the transparent crystal ball indicated that Yi Qinghan was in the valley. However, they didn't know exactly where he was hiding in the valley. Therefore, they needed to kill that dragon, then slowly turn the valley upside down. Finally, they would find that despicable kid and slowly tear him apart. 2 teams of more than 2,000 people swarmed into the valley. The valley was still as beautiful as ever, and the dragon's roar was still deafening. Yaokaka was a little agitated, his golden hair swinging back and forth. He waved his hand again, indicating for the demons to speed up. The valley wasn't big, but there were lakes, trees, and mountains. The scenery was still as beautiful as before. Both Yaokaka and Mangon stood at the entrance of the valley. They didn't go deep into the valley. Instead, they each sent half of their men to be the vanguard, while they brought the rest of their men to observe from the back. A starving camel was still bigger than a horse, not to mention a dragon that was just giving birth. Before they understood the situation, they naturally wouldn't risk their lives rashly. Although the scouts they sent out yesterday reported that the black dragon was extremely unusual, to be safe, they didn't foolishly rush into the dragon's cave. The demons and barbarians followed the lake in the valley and walked towards the left side of the valley. After they passed through the dense forest, under the guidance of the scouts, they headed toward the cave where the dragon was entrenched. Yaokaka and Mangon were a little excited as they walked around. Their eyes glowed as they stared at the forest on the left. They pricked up their ears, listening carefully for any movement in the distance. Roar! Another dragon roar sounded. Yaokaka and Mangon were both delighted. They could hear the anger and weakness in this dragon roar. Immediately after, the roars of the demons and barbarians could be heard, as well as the sounds of battle. Yaokaka and Mangon looked at each other and waved their hands. They were about to order the entire army to charge forward and slay this dragon together. Roar! However, before they could wave their hands, an even louder and more furious dragon roar sounded from the left side of the valley. And most importantly, this dragon roar was actually different from the previous one. Yaokaka and Mangon hurriedly signaled for their subordinates to stop moving forward. They all looked at the forest in front of them in confusion, not understanding what was happening. In the next moment, their confused gazes instantly turned to fear. Their originally slightly flushed faces suddenly turned deathly pale. They saw a completely black dragon that was more than 10 meters long suddenly rise into the sky. Its black scales reflected the sunlight and emitted a cold light. Its pair of cold eyes were filled with anger. Roar! This black dragon roared once again. It opened its huge mouth, and a black dragon's breath shot downwards. Its thick and long tail swung violently in the air and then smashed down heavily on the ground. The dragon's tail collided with the ground. A loud sound like thunder from a clear sky resounded, and the entire valley shook. Then, countless demons and barbarians began to rush out of the forest, their faces filled with fear and despair. Damn it! Run! Yaokaka and Mangon, as well as the barbarians and demons beside them, were collectively stunned when they saw the dragon rise into the sky. Looking at the incomparably powerful black dragon in the sky and feeling its violent and ferocious aura, they all held their breaths. When the fiery dragon's breath was spat out, they were finally awakened by the fiery aura. Their first thought was that the information they received was wrong. Run! This black dragon's aura was unparalleled and ferocious. How did it look like it had given birth? When they thought of the two clearly different dragon roars just now, they felt like crying. Why were there two black dragons in the Black Dragon Valley? What did their scouts do yesterday? How did those bastards in the Divine City gather information? Chapter 113. There was no time to consider whether the Divine City's information was wrong or whether this was a conspiracy by the Divine City. There was also no time to pay respects to Tu Qianjuan's ancestors. At this moment, they wished that they had 4 legs. They were afraid that they would not run fast enough and become a pile of bones under the dragon's breath or a pile of rotten meat under the dragon's tail. Who? His wife was giving birth, and this group of puny demons and barbarians dared to disturb him. They even woke him up from his deep sleep. The black dragon was obviously furious. Its huge dragon's breath turned the entire Black Dragon Valley into a purgatory. Its huge dragon tail almost raised the entire Black Dragon Valley to the ground. The vanguard of the demon race and the barbarian race obviously didn't have anyone who dared to fight against the furious black dragon. They could only scatter in all directions and hide under the huge dragon's breath and tail. However, the valley was only so big. After being swept by the black dragon, there was basically no place to hide. All the demons and barbarians had become red stars on the target. They were so dazzling and eye-catching. Plop! Plop! The lake in the middle of the valley became the last refuge. Countless demons and barbarians jumped into the lake and dove into the water to avoid the hot dragon's breath. Bang! The black dragon did not care. It smashed the barbarians and demons that were running towards the entrance of the valley to death. When it was sure that no demons or barbarians dared to run towards the entrance, it turned around and flew towards the lake. Plop! Plop! The remaining barbarians and demons had no way to escape. They could only look at the small lake in the middle and jump into the water. Hoo! Hoo! The black dragon let out a long howl. A cruel look flashed across its cold eyes. Following that, it spat out one dragon's breath after another towards the lake as if it was free. In an instant, the entire lake started boiling. The demons and barbarians hiding under the lake could only hang on bitterly. After all, they would die if they stuck their heads out. It was obvious that the black dragon was extremely furious. It did not hesitate to expend its own energy to kill all these foreign races that dared to offend its wife. The dragon's breath continued to spit out, raising the temperature of the lake. Finally, all the demons and barbarians in the lake were cooked alive. Moreover, half of the water in the lake had evaporated. Looking at the corpses floating up to the surface of the lake, the black dragon shook its head in satisfaction and roared towards the cave on the left of the valley. Then it turned around and flew out of the black dragon valley. There were still many demon clan and barbarian clan fleeing outside. The black dragon decided to leave a deep impression on them. It wanted to let all the creatures on the Dark World Island know that if they angered the great black dragon, they would die without a complete corpse. Dragon whiskers were not something that any creature could touch. After the black dragon flew away, a few human heads emerged from the purgatory-like Black Dragon Valley, as well as a small beast whose entire body was pitch black. Looking at the Black Dragon Valley filled with corpses, the 4 humans and 1 beast were completely shocked. When Yao Kaka and Man Gon entered the valley and angered the black dragon, they had already noticed that something was wrong. They immediately went to the entrance of the cave and began to observe the situation. When they discovered that there were countless demons and barbarians being chased around the Black Dragon Valley, the first thing they thought of was to seal the cave immediately. Otherwise, if this cave was discovered by the demons and barbarians, they would be in big trouble. Taking advantage of the chaos, the 4 of them used their swords and sabers to smash the entrance of the cave, making it look like a cave-in. They quickly used stones and mud to block the entrance of the cave. Then they let Xiao He begin to sense the situation outside. Fortunately, the demons and barbarians were being chased around by the black dragon and did not notice the cave. They only came out of the cave when the black dragon flew out of the valley. Let's go, let's go. This is a rare opportunity. When the black dragon returns, or when the black dragon in the valley finishes giving birth and recovers, we will definitely die. Yi 17 shook his head and did not look at the tragic situation in the valley. He waved his hand as if telling everyone to escape from the valley. If we don't go, I'm going to vomit, Yi Qingwu said with a frown as she covered her mouth with her lily-white hand. Ugh! Yi 13th turned to look at the left side of the valley and suppressed the throbbing in his heart. He gritted his teeth and said in a deep voice, "Go! Out of the valley!" The male black dragon had already left the valley to hunt down the demons and barbarians. This was a good opportunity to collect the dragon crystal and points from the corpses on the ground. But who knew how far the black dragon had gone? If they went to collect the dragon crystal, they would definitely be discovered by the female black dragon. If he summoned the male black dragon and the male black dragon was not far away, then they would have nowhere to escape to. Therefore, for safety's sake, Yi 13th suppressed the strong desire in his heart and turned to lead them out of the valley. After all, This was the best opportunity to escape. If they missed this opportunity, they did not know when they would get another one. Ha! Boss, you guys go first. I'll catch up with you later. However, when Yi Qinghan and the others were about to leave, Xiao He, who was next to them, suddenly transmitted his voice to them. Seeing the trace of greed in Xiao He's eyes, Yi Qinghan was shocked. He immediately understood what Xiao He wanted to do. He shook his head and said, "No, Xiao He. It's too dangerous. I don't agree." "Yeah, it's too dangerous. If that black dragon is nearby, it'll be too dangerous." Yi 13th also looked at Xiao He in surprise and understood what Xiao He wanted to do. Although this black small beast was a legendary sacred beast, it was very easy for a sacred beast to die prematurely when it was still young. As the first sacred beast of the Yi family in hundreds of years, it would be a great loss if it died prematurely. Yi 13th was also afraid that Xiao He would bring back the black dragon before they could go far. If that happened, they would also be in danger. Therefore, he decisively rejected Xiao He's proposal. "Huh?" Xiao He looked at everyone's worried expressions and pursed his lips as his body glowed. Then his body, which was originally the size of a human head, suddenly grew and finally became the size of a fierce horse. Only then did this magical performance stop. "Boss, I forgot to tell you. During the time I was asleep, my strength has improved further. The most obvious improvement is my speed. Now, my speed is comparable to the first-level Emperor realm of you human warriors. Even if that black dragon comes back, I have a way to escape. Watch carefully." Xiao He raised his head proudly and glanced at Yi 13th and Yi 17th with disdain. Then, he turned his head and said to Yi Qinghan. After saying that, he retreated slightly and his whole body shook. Then, he turned into a sharp sword and shot into the distance. In the blink of an eye, he was already hundreds of meters away. Chapter 114. Swish! With the sound of breaking through the air, Xiao He turned around once again. His black body slowly grew larger in the eyes of the crowd. In an instant, he shot back in front of the crowd from afar. His body trembled once more in midair and suddenly stopped. The four of them looked at each other. This speed was indeed frightening. The most frightening thing was the time it took for Xiao He to accelerate and decelerate. He did not need any buffer time. With just a tremble of his body, he could suddenly accelerate and decelerate. No one would believe this. It was too incredible. Now you believe me. With my speed, as long as I am in the forest, the black dragon will not be able to see me. You guys leave quickly. I would not do such a stupid thing if I was not confident." Xiao He stared at Yi Qinghan with a fiery gaze, indicating for Yi Qinghan to believe him. As for Yi 13th and Yi 17th, as a sacred beast, he could not be bothered with them. "Let's go." Yi Qinghan was silent for a moment. He gave Xiao He a careful look and said decisively. Then he turned and flew out of the valley. "Be careful, Xiao He. Let's go." Seeing that Yi Qinghan had left, Yi 13th did not say anything else. He turned and said to Yi 17th and Yi Qingguo, "Without the male black dragon, the female black dragon's strength had been greatly reduced. They did not have any scruples. They released their battle chi and turned into shadows as they floated out of the valley." Yao Kaka was in a bad mood. Looking at the black dragon circling in the sky not far away and his subordinates being chased by the black dragon, he could not cheer up. Tu Qianjun, that bastard. He has made me suffer. This time his father had sent him 8 demon sovereigns. Now, only a demon sovereign of the Fox clan and a demon sovereign of the Tiger clan were left. Last time, when he chased after Yi Yi and the others, 2 were killed by the black dragon. Then, in the Silver Moon Canyon, 2 were killed by the Silver Moon two-headed wolf. Now, there were still 2 more in the Black Dragon Valley. He did not know if they were alive or dead. This time, he had brought more than 1,000 people with him, including more than 10 demon sovereigns. However, even if all the other demon sovereigns died, he wouldn't feel any heartache. The 2 demon emperors who stayed behind in the Black Dragon Valley were his direct subordinates that his father had given to him. They were loyal to him and would be the foundation for him to become a saint of the demon race in the future. But now, 6 of them had died in a small prefecture battle, not to mention his own heartache. Even if he returned to the demon race, he would not know how to face his father's anger. There's a conspiracy. There's definitely a conspiracy. Yao Kaka screamed in his heart as he frantically ran for his life. Now that he thought about it carefully, he felt that it was a conspiracy between the Divine City and the House of Ares. Otherwise, how could the 4 clans teams be so lucky every time? Last time, a small team happened to pass by, and they even risked their lives to rescue them. And in the end, it just so happened that they were lured to the Silver Moon Canyon, making them suffer the wrath of the Silver Moon Two-Headed Wolf. This time, it was even more ridiculous. Was he clearly trying to send them to their deaths? Even the elites of the Netherworld Island would find it difficult to destroy a black dragon at its peak, let alone the 2,000 of them. Run! Run! Run back to the base camp. He decided that he would never leave the base camp again. He didn't want the prefecture battle's sacred weapon anymore. If he lost his life, he would have nothing left. Mangon was also in a bad mood. Of course, anyone would be in a bad mood if they were being chased by a dragon. He was not like Yao Kaka. Every elite of the barbarian tribe was his people. He would be furious if any of them died. But this time, in order to obtain the elusive sacred weapon and to establish good relations with the Divine City, the barbarian tribe had lost so many elites. How could he not be angry? He watched as his people were turned into charcoal by the black dragon's dragon breath and turned into meat paced by the dragon's tail time and time again. He was even more furious. But at this moment, he could do nothing but run. He could not do anything. Hence, he was very sullen and angry, but he had no way to vent his anger. Hence, his mood worsened. This is all caused by that Yi Qinghan of the human race. If I have the chance, I will tear him apart. Mangon waved his hands in front of his chest and continued to run. The plot outside the Black Dragon Valley was very interesting. It was like an angry child standing on a lawn, and there were frightened ants running in all directions. This child was obviously very angry. He kept raising his feet and chasing the ants. He even stepped on them from time to time. Occasionally, some panicked monsters and barbarians tried to escape through the teleportation formation scattered outside the valley. However, when the teleportation formation was activated, there would be a dazzling light. Most importantly, the activation of the teleportation formation required a few seconds. During these few seconds, those who were in the shining teleportation formation became the Black Dragon's target. With a dragon breath, the teleportation formation was activated. However, it could only send away a pile of bones and charred flesh. After a few experiments, no one dared to use the teleportation formation anymore. They could only run as fast as they could. Yi Qinghan's group of 4 left the valley. Of course, they did not dare to stop or run in a straight line. Instead, they circled around the valley and spent more than 10 minutes going around the back of the valley. Only then did they start running in the opposite direction. After running for more than 10 minutes, they stopped in a forest at the foot of a mountain. The forest was very dense. Moreover, this forest was actually inside a mountain cave. It was impossible to see their tracks from the outside. Most importantly, they found a teleportation formation in the forest. They were prepared to wait for the soul-devouring beast Xiaohe here. Although Yi Qinghan and Xiaohe had a soul connection, he would not be able to sense them if they were too far away. Therefore, after they discovered the terrain here, they decisively stopped here. They quietly waited for Xiaohe's return. Half an hour passed, but there was still no movement in the valley. There was no trace of Xiaohe at all. Everyone began to worry, especially Yi Qinghan. He could not hide the anxiety on his face, no matter what. He paced back and forth in the forest, his eyes scanning everywhere outside the forest. That familiar black figure was nowhere to be seen, even after a long time. After an hour, there was still no sign of Xiaohe. However, just as everyone's expressions darkened, and they were at a loss of what to do, an angry dragon roar resounded in the valley. It was closely followed by an even angrier dragon roar that echoed in the distance. Xiaohe! Yi Qinghan looked at the sky in shock and cried out in worry. It was very obvious that Xiao He must have done something in the Black Dragon Valley that made that female dragon so angry that she ignored her body's weakness and roared loudly to call for the male black dragon in the distance. Hearing the male black dragon's roar, the four's expressions became even worse. Although the male black dragon's roar sounded very far away, the four of them could hear it. It couldn't be that far. They would probably be able to rush back to the Black Dragon Valley in a few minutes. And if Xiao He was intercepted by the Black Dragon along the way, then he would definitely receive the boundless fury of the enraged Black Dragon. Chapter 115. Xiao He, hurry, hurry! Yi Qinghan's gloomy face suddenly lit up. Through his soul perception, he discovered that Xiao He was constantly approaching him. Although it was a little vague, the Black Dragon Valley was not far away. As long as they could reach here before the male Black Dragon returned, they could use the teleportation array to escape. Gaga! Boss, we're rich! A few minutes later, Xiao He's voice sounded in Yi Qinghan's mind. Before Yi Qinghan could ponder the meaning of this sentence, Xiao He's black body shot towards them like a cannonball. At the same time, the male Black Dragon's earth-shattering roar came from the Black Dragon Valley. Let's go! Xiao He turned into a black shadow and directly threw himself into Yi Qinghan's arms. Yi Shisan immediately shouted. The four of them jumped into the teleportation array at the same time. The teleportation array's dazzling white light instantly surrounded their bodies. Roar! 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 The male Black Dragon's huge body suddenly rose from the Black Dragon Valley. It roared 3 times in a row and turned into a blur as it flew towards Yi Qinghan and the others. At the same time, a super Earth dragon breath rushed towards the teleportation array. Too late! Goodbye, big worm! Yi Shisan chuckled and waved at the Black Dragon in the sky. The four of them turned into a white light and disappeared into the forest. Bang! After Yi Qinghan and the others left, a huge dragon breath descended on the forest. The entire forest was almost flattened by this super Earth dragon breath. Only the teleportation array remained, and the faint white light from the teleportation array remained. Xiao He, are you okay? What is that bracelet in your hand? Ah, a badge ring? The four of them were teleported into a canyon. After Yi 13 and Yi 17 teleported over, the first thing they did was to investigate the surroundings. After confirming that there were no enemies within a 1-mile radius, they returned to Xiao He's side with a peace of mind. Yi Qinghan began to ask Xiao He about the results of the battle. However, he discovered that Xiao He had actually used an ancient vine to wrap a string of things on his hand. Upon closer inspection, he discovered that they were all badges and rings. Yi Qingwu was also startled by the densely packed rings on Xiao He's hand. She opened her mouth wide and stuck out her pink tongue, saying, "Ah, they were actually all rings. Xiao He, you haven't been collecting rings in the Black Dragon Valley for so long, have you? Oh my god! There are actually 5 cyan rings, and there should be dozens of green rings." What did she think this sacred beast was doing after being gone for so long? Boss, I know you need a lot of points. It just so happens that there are rings everywhere in the Black Dragon Valley. It would be a waste not to take them. However, these are all small gains. The biggest harvest has already been swallowed into my stomach. No, the energy is too strong. I have to go back and refine all the energy in the dragon crystal. Kaka, I've struck it rich. I wonder if I can completely enter the mature stage after refining this dragon crystal. Xiao He proudly shook his little head. After handing all the rings in his hand to Yi Qinghan, his body flashed and turned into a shadow, disappearing into Yi Qinghan's body. So many points? Yi 13 and Yi 17 looked at each other with a happy expression. They had worked hard for several months and only obtained a few thousand points. However, Xiao He had actually brought back at least 1,000 or 2,000 points. Yi 17 was in a good mood. He chuckled and said happily, "Let's go. We'll collect points as we go." 17, check the map. Where are we now? Yi 17 chuckled. The joy of escaping death, coupled with the safe return of Xiao He and the large pile of rings, made his mood better. He hurriedly took out the map and compared it with the nearby terrain. Finally, he ran around to check. After carefully looking for a while, he turned back and said, we have to go quickly. This time we teleported a little far. We actually teleported to the Scarlet Plains. I'm afraid it will take about 10 days to return to the nearest chaotic battlefield. Then let's go. 17, you go ahead and scout. Ye 13 nodded and said. The four of them were in a good mood. The demon race and barbarian race had been ruthlessly destroyed by the Silvermoon two-headed wolf and the black dragon. Many people had died. Although they were not sure whether Yao Kaka and Mangon were also sleeping outside the Black Dragon Valley, at least they had repaid some interest for Yi and the others. Young Master Hanwei, Yi Shisan suddenly thought of something and stopped abruptly. What's wrong? Yi Qinghan paused in surprise and looked at Yi 13 in confusion. Yi 17 and Yi Qingwu also stopped and looked at Yi 13 with puzzled eyes. Take out the insects, crush them all, and leave the corpses as evidence. Otherwise, our whereabouts are in the hands of the demon race and barbarian race. I'm afraid they will surround and kill us again. Yes! Yi Qinghan was suddenly enlightened. He quickly took out a bottle from his bosom and poured out the few hidden insects in the bottle. Then, he took out the Azure Dragon Dagger and cut all of them into two before putting them all into the bottle. After packing everything, Yi Qinghan smiled and said to the governor, well, we probably won't be tracked anymore. Let's go. It will take about 10 days to reach the chaotic region. Feng Ziyue, Yu Qingsheng, and the others are probably waiting anxiously. Yi Qinghan, you are afraid that Yu Qingsheng will be waiting anxiously. Yi Qingwu rolled her eyes and said with slight jealousy, It's the same. Yi Qinghan laughed and said in a somewhat embarrassed manner. However, Yu Qingsheng's otherworldly beauty and her spirited eyes that seemed to be able to speak appeared in his mind. He couldn't help but become somewhat infatuated. Let's go. Yi 13 patted Yi Qinghan's back and pulled him back to reality. His figure flashed, and he strode forward. Yi Qinghan was stunned. His lips curled into a sweet smile, and he followed. In the chaotic region of the House of Ares, the temporary base camp. Today, Long Sinan once again gathered all the team leaders in the cave and held a meeting. The latest news is that Yao Kaka and Mangon attacked the Black Dragon Valley this morning. Unexpectedly, there was a problem with the intelligence. The Black Dragon Valley actually has two black dragons. Yao Kaka and Mangon suffered heavy losses. They lost at least 4 or 5 demon emperors and barbarian sovereigns. At this moment, they are fleeing in disorder. This information has already been confirmed by many scouts. Just as Long Sinan finished her sentence, all the team leaders in the cave were stunned as if they were struck by lightning. They thought that Yao Kaka and Mangon, as the leaders of the demon race and barbarian race, were not idiots. Since they had chosen to slay the Black Dragon, they should have a certain level of confidence. They didn't expect that they would be ravaged by the Black Dragon just a few days ago. Miss Long, are you sure? Shui Wuhan's expression changed. He knew clearly why Yao Kaka and Mangon wanted to slay the Black Dragon Valley. He also knew that Yao Kaka and Mangon were not only going to slay the Black Dragon Valley, but they were also preparing to kill Yi Qinghan, who was hiding in the Black Dragon Valley. When he heard Long Sanan's news, he thought about the red that suddenly disappeared in the crystal ball in the afternoon. He had a bad premonition. Chapter 116. Yes. Long Sinan nodded affirmatively and looked at the crowd again. That's good. The monster race and barbarian race. The Black Dragon race should be completely slaughtered. It would be best if barbarian race and Yao Kaka were all killed. After a leader got Long Sanan's confirmation, he let out a long laugh and said very happily, Good job. This Black Dragon is a good dragon. It's better to kill more of them. The crowd laughed heartily. The gloom they had felt when they heard about the demon race and barbarian tribe a few days ago was swept away. The other leader on the left suddenly stood up and said with sparkling eyes, The Black Dragon is a good black dragon. Why don't we go and kill the drowning dogs now? Kill them all? This suggestion obviously made the people who had been talking heartily stop. All of them stopped talking and looked at Long Sinan. Long Sinan smiled at the leader who had made this suggestion, then turned to look at the crowd. She waved her hand and said, "Haha. Actually, the reason why I called everyone here today is because I want to discuss this with everyone. Although we don't know why the demon race and the barbarian race have joined forces, but since this has already become a fact, we will definitely have a great battle with the demon race and the barbarian race. Since we will have to fight sooner or later, this is the best opportunity. We will take advantage of the fact that they have lost their courage after being killed by the black dragon, and we will give them the most painful blow. We will kill all of their elites so that we can gain the upper hand in the final battle." "Good idea, Miss Long. Let's kill them while they are down and avenge our fallen comrades in the House of Ares." Long Shuelu, who was beside Long Sinan, was the first to respond to Long Sinan's call. His handsome face was filled with anger. "This idea seems good, but the demon race and barbarian tribe have the advantage in numbers. We don't have enough information. If we go there rashly, I'm afraid we will fall into their trap and be completely wiped out. Yes, let's think about it carefully. We can't be reckless. Be careful of falling into their trap." "I agree with Miss Long's suggestion. My team suffered quite a lot of injuries last time. I'm afraid we will need to rest for a while." Everyone was silent for a moment before they began to express their opinions. Out of the dozens of teams, half of them expressed their opinions. Only a few agreed, while the rest were against. As for the other half, they were just observing. "Young Master Shui, what's your opinion?" Long Sinan didn't take it to heart as she looked at Shui Wuhan. She knew that most of the squads here belonged to the 5 great clans in Dragon City. Needless to say, all the people in Dragon City would follow her. At this moment, the young masters and young ladies of the other 4 families were not here, so they could only adopt a wait-and-see policy. Now, the most important thing was Shui Wuhan's attitude. Shui Wuhan led 2 squads, and there were 4 or 5 squads that followed his orders. If he had decided to go, then those people who were watching might have followed the main group. At this moment, it was a success. Seeing that everyone was looking at him, Shui Wuhan smiled and stood up. He cupped his fists and waved his folding fan. He said gently, "Miss Long, I'm sorry. There are too many suspicious points in this matter, and the information is unclear. The Shui family will not get involved. After all, I have to be responsible for the lives of more than 1,000 of my men. Of course, I will stay here. If the monster clan or the barbarian clan comes to challenge us, I will not be stingy with my battle aura. I will fight to the death." Shui Wuhan's words were beautiful, well-organized, and righteous. What a joke! He wanted him to fight Yao Kaka head-on? If they panicked and exposed the fact that he had worked with them to kill the 4 family squads, then the entire House of Ares would not be able to tolerate him. Of course, he had to refuse. He's a coward. Of course he won't go. He's a real man. Follow me. The onlookers nodded. They seemed to think that Shui Wuhan's words made sense. But before they could speak, a loud, rough voice came from outside the cave. Everyone in the cave was shocked. They all looked at the entrance of the cave to see who it was. Who had the guts to scold the young clan leader of the Shui family? Hearing the voice, Long Sinan and Long Shuelio's faces lit up. They quickly stood up. Beside them, Shui Wuhan's face darkened. He looked at the entrance of the cave from the corner of his eyes. Under the hopeful gazes of the crowd, a tall and majestic figure appeared at the entrance of the cave. His muscles were full of explosive power. On his back was a huge black sword that shot straight into the sky. "Crazy, you're finally back. I knew it. How could a scourge like you die so easily? You'll be a scourge for at least 1,000 years. The first to speak was Long Shuelu. His handsome face was full of sincerity. Long Shuelu and Feng Zi were close friends. Those who knew Feng Zi began to greet him warmly. Only Shui Wuhan stood at the side with a gloomy face. "Haha, before you die, I won't die before you. Greetings, Miss Long. Greetings, everyone." Feng Zi laughed out loud and punched Long Shuelu heavily. He waved to the crowd and turned to Miss Long with his hands cupped together. "Well, it's good that you're back. Where are they?" Long Sinan nodded with a smile and asked, "Hello, Miss Long." "Hello, everyone. I, Hua Chao, have returned safely. As soon as Long Sinan finished speaking, a feminine voice came from the entrance again. After a while, Hua Chao's figure appeared at the entrance of the cave. Sister Long, Qingqing is back too. A soft voice like that of an oriole came from the entrance of the cave again. Yu Qingqing, dressed in a green robe, swayed her graceful body. She slowly walked into the cave, bringing with her a fragrant wind. Long Sinan raised her eyebrows and smiled sweetly again. She took a few steps forward and held Yu Qingqing's hand. She said urgently, "Yes, it's good that Sister Qingqing is safe. I was so worried." "Greetings, Miss Long." Finally, a group of people walked into the cave. It was Hua Xinfeng and Meng Yu. They nodded at Long Sinan and stood at the side with a smile. Where is Yi Qinghan and Yi Qingwu?" Long Sinan nodded with a smile. She seemed to have thought of something and turned to ask Yu Qingqing in surprise. "Still no news." Long Sinan's question made everyone's face turn gloomy. Although they were teleported to different regions, they finally met up at the previously agreed location. Most of the four clans' teams had arrived. However, they didn't receive any news from Yi Qinghan, Yi 17, Yi 13, and Yi Qingwu. After waiting for a day, they had no choice but to go to the temporary stronghold in the disordered region. However, they didn't receive any news from the four of them. Chapter 117. They must have teleported to a faraway place. Maybe they'll be back in 2 days. Long Sinan could only comfort herself when she saw their gloomy expressions. Long Shuelu also comforted them. Yes, Yi Qinghan is a womanizer by nature. He might be seducing young ladies somewhere. Ha, don't worry. Screw you. You're the womanizer by nature. You only think about seducing the demon clan's vixen every day. Feng Zi's lips twitched as he forced a smile. He suddenly thought of something and raised his brows. "Miss Long, I heard that you're preparing to attack the demon clan and barbarian clan. It seems like our young master Shui doesn't dare to go." Long Sinan saw that the leaders of the three clans were all present. She smiled and paused for a moment before saying, "Yes, I received news that the demon clan and barbarian clan went to slay the dragon, but were utterly defeated by the black dragon. More than half of them died and are now fleeing. I'm going to lead a team to stop them. I want to completely suppress their morale so that the final battle won't be so difficult. As for young Master Shui, I'm sure he has his own plans. I can't force him." Long Sinan briefly explained the situation. When she mentioned Shui Wuhan, although her tone was still calm, the slight contempt in her words could still be heard. "How sure are you about the authenticity of this news?" Feng Zi did not say much. He frowned and raised the question in his heart. Long Sinan raised her brows and answered crisply, 90%. "Good. This time Yao Kaka and Mangan dared to set us up. If it wasn't for the Yi family sickle team sacrificing themselves, I'm afraid we'd all be dead. If we don't vent our anger, we won't be able to live comfortably in the future. I represent all the teams in West Wind City to follow Miss Long. If they dare to disobey, I'll tear down their family's doors." Feng Zi thought for a moment and twisted his chest muscles. He glared fiercely at the team leader who was affiliated with his clan and said decisively. Just as Feng Zi finished speaking, Hua Hua's feminine voice suddenly sounded. "I represent all the teams in Luo Hua City to join the allied forces and listen to Miss Long's command. Of course, if anyone disagrees, the Hua clan stealth training will be changed to their clan's female bathhouse. All teams of the Yu clan listen to Sister Long's command. All teams present. If you disagree, Silver Moon City will no longer welcome you." Yu Qingqing's gentle voice rang out at the end. Her voice was very pleasant to the ears. It was just that. Yu Qingqing's gentle words, which seemed like a fairy, caused everyone to feel as if they had been struck by lightning. A woman's heart was the most vicious. This saying was right. Silver Moon City didn't welcome them anymore. Your Yu clan saintess has spoken. She has severed everyone's happiness. Who would dare to not go? Even Shui Wuhan, who had been silent with a dark expression, rolled his eyes. Yu Qingsheng was indeed worthy of being the most outstanding woman among the hundreds of elite disciples of the Yu clan. Her words put him in a dilemma. The enchanted town was a holy land for men, especially for a rich and powerful young master like him. If he was not allowed to enter the enchanted town again, he would lose his life. However, he was silent for a moment. Thinking about how to face Yao Kaka and how to act recklessly, he made up his mind not to get involved in this mess. Since young Master Feng is going, I will definitely support him. Yes, I have always disliked those demons and barbarians. This time, I can finally kill them. I agree. Seconded. Seconded. Due to the strong participation of Yu Qingsheng, the leaders of the teams in the cave immediately changed their stance. Among the dozens of teams, other than Shui Wuheng's team, there were still 5 or 6 teams. The rest of the teams all agreed with Long Sanan's decision. The speed of the change was breathtaking. I still insist on my opinion. I will stay at the temporary stronghold. Shui Wuheng saw that Long Sanan's gaze was on him. He clenched his teeth and sighed helplessly. I won't force those who don't want to go. Those who agree, get ready tonight. We will depart early tomorrow morning. I hope that everyone can make a great contribution to the House of Aries. Long Sinan smiled gently and nodded. She waved her hand lightly, signaling everyone to go back and get ready. That night, the House of Aries started to get busy. This was the first time in the past few months that the mansion battle had a group operation. Of course, all the teams attached great importance to it. On that night, the few hundred people from the 4 families who were on standby in the temporary stronghold also rushed over, ready to participate in the operation tomorrow. This meant that all the forces of the 4 families, except for the Shui family, were invested in this operation. The rest of the teams felt more at ease and their confidence soared. The next day, the sky was just beginning to brighten. The temporary stronghold of the House of Aries was even busier. Thousands of elites were equipped with weapons and armors. They were full of ambition and started to gather. They were ready to depart to the center of the chaotic battlefield. Their target was the Monster Clan and Barbarian Clan who were fleeing. When the House of Aries opened, more than 10,000 people were teleported to the Nether Island to participate in the battle. In the past few months, more than 2,000 people had died in the battle with the Monster Clan and Barbarian Clan. At this moment, other than the 2,000 people who did not participate in the battle under the leadership of Shui Wuheng, the rest of the 4,000 people had all gathered here. In this operation, I need all of you to listen to my command. I can promise you that I will be the first to rush into the battlefield and the last to leave. Of course, Long Chung will not take any points. All of them will be distributed to you according to the proportion of military merits. Moreover, as long as you have outstanding military merits, I will report it to my superiors. After the mansion battle, you will be rewarded according to your merits. Before the departure, Long Sinan started to make a pre-battle declaration. Although it was only a few words, it successfully stimulated everyone's morale. She was the first to kill and the last to run. Moreover, she did not want anything. Her breadth of mind and boldness were incomparable to that of a man. Such a woman, who was not inferior to a man, made all the men feel ashamed. The Yu family will provide you Lu's top-notch service for a month for the top 10 people who have killed the most people. After Long Sinan finished her words, Yu Qingqing once again offered a huge bargaining chip, which made the morale of the entire army reach its peak. Depart. Long Sinan pointed her sword in one direction. Thousands of people marched majestically towards the center of the chaotic battlefield in the north. When the army moved, all the elites of the Hua family dispersed in all directions. Last night, Long Sinan gave Hua a difficult task. There must be scouts from the Hua family in a radius of 20 miles around the army. Although there was a professional scout in Long Sanan's team, now that the flowers and plants had appeared, the responsibility of investigating was handed over to the Hua family. After all, the Hua family's special skill of concentration was unparalleled in the world when it came to scouting. Chapter 118. The army began to march in silence. Thousands of people covered the sky and covered the earth. Due to the large number of people, The terrain of the disordered region was not suitable for the army to set out. In addition, there were countless teleportation formations scattered all around, causing the army's marching speed to slow down. Their formations also changed repeatedly. The busiest person in the army was Huaxia. Not only did he have to be in charge of the intelligence work within 10 li of the army, but he also had to report the nearby intelligence within a few minutes. He also had to arrange for people to mark the nearby teleportation formations, scout the terrain, arrange the most appropriate marching route, and arrange for experts to scout the escape routes of the demon and barbarian armies. The two dukes of the Hua clan, in the name of training the future Hua clan patriarch, threw all the matters to him. He only wandered around the vicinity leisurely and chatted with the beauties of the Yu clan, causing Huaxia to vomit blood in anger. Long Sinan was also very busy. This was the first time she had organized such a large operation. Although she looked calm and steady on the surface, she was always nervous and worried on the inside. She was the only daughter of the dragon brute. She was number 1 in the weighbridge. She had the title of a woman not inferior to a man. Moreover, she was very confident in herself. However, the old fellows in the clan had always been biased against her. A few years ago, her father had wanted to appoint her as the young patriarch of the Long clan. However, the old fellows in the clan had always used her status as a woman and could not command heroes as an excuse to forcefully suppress it. This time, she had participated in the prefecture battle with the intention of proving to the clan and the old fellows that she had the ability to become the young patriarch. Therefore, she relied on her valiant strength and incomparable rallying power to gather the elites of the prefecture battle together. She had always had a strong premonition that this was a very good opportunity to cripple the demon clan and the barbarian clan. Therefore, she did not want to let go of it. However, this was the first time she was commanding so many people in battle. This was the first time she was responsible for so many lives. She was always nervous and worried. Therefore, she was very busy, constantly receiving countless intelligence reports, constantly thinking, and constantly issuing orders. Yu Qingqing was also very busy. Although the army was commanded by Long Sinan, and she did not need to participate in anything. Although all the things along the way were taken care of by the Yu family, she was still very busy. She was busy thinking of a person. Her mind was always thinking of a person, a delicate and handsome youth who always had a faint smile on his face. Her black pearl-like eyes looked into the distance from time to time, as if waiting for Yi Qinghan to return. Yi Qinghan was also very busy. Of course, he was not busy counting points. Although Xiao He had collected a lot of rings, it only took him half an hour to convert all the rings into more than 1,000 points. He was busy refining the countless energies that had inexplicably surged out of his body. On the afternoon of the journey, he suddenly felt waves of very pure energy surging out of his chest. These energies directly poured into his meridians and mixed with his battle chi. At first, he didn't pay much attention to it. After all, it was just a trace of energy, and it wouldn't cause too much of a stir. However, the energy in his chest suddenly surged even more cheerfully, and it became more and more concentrated. At this time, he didn't dare to be careless. He was about to stop and take a closer look. Unexpectedly, he received a sound transmission from Xiao He in the Warbeast space. This energy was the energy inside the dragon crystal, so there was no need to care about it. He just needed to circulate his battle chi with all his strength and let it circulate in his body. The faster the battle chi circulated, the better. Hearing Xiao He's sound transmission, Yi Qinghan didn't think too much about it. Xiao He was his warbeast, a lifelong companion. Of course, he would only treat him well and wouldn't harm him. So he began to circulate his battle chi with all his strength and ran. Yi Qinghan's sudden increase in speed surprised Yi Shisan and Yi Qingwu, but they didn't say anything. They thought that he was eager to return home, so they didn't say anything and sped up to catch up. Yi Shisan was a powerful marquis, so Yi Qinghan's speed was certainly not enough for him. Yi Qingwu was also a marshal, so of course she wouldn't show any weakness. So a race between the three of them began, and then the three of them actually caught up with Yi Shisan, who was scouting ahead. The last four-person race had begun. However, after 2 or 3 hours, Yi Qinghan didn't seem to slow down at all. He was still running with all his might. Moreover, he was silently running with his head down. Yi Shisan didn't say much, nor did he express much. This kind of speed was like a game to him. As for Yi Qingwu, she was a little tired. Of course, her body was full of battle qi, so it wouldn't be a problem for her to run for another day. It was just that it was a little indecent and a little boring for a girl to run like this. However, Yi Qinghan didn't pay any attention to her and continued to run with his head lowered. This successfully aroused the competitive spirit in the depths of her heart, and she began to fight against Yi Qinghan in a fit of pique. The setting sun sprinkled its afterglow as it slowly left, leaving the nether island in darkness. Yi Qinghan finally stopped, but he just told the three of them that he was going to cultivate. Then, he directly jumped onto an ancient tree, sat cross-legged, and started cultivating with his eyes closed. Although Yi Shisan and the other two felt strange about Yi Qinghan's weird behavior today, seeing that he was cultivating, they didn't ask him anything. They ate something quickly, took turns to keep watch at night, and started to rest. Of course, Yi Qinghan was acting tough from time to time. He had no choice. The energy in his chest was becoming more and more turbulent. When he ran, his battle qi would circulate in his body. The energy that was transmitted to him from time to time would wander along with his battle qi and finally accumulate in his dantian. Now that he stopped, his battle qi didn't circulate, but that energy seemed to burst his meridians. Therefore, he had to keep cultivating so that pure energy would circulate along with his battle qi and finally accumulate in his dantian. The next day, he continued to run. Except for eating time, Yi Qinghan was running all the time. In the evening, he immediately sat cross-legged and continued to cultivate. Running, sitting cross-legged, cultivating, Yi Qinghan's life was full and busy. Of course, it was a little too much. Yi Shisan, Yi Shisan, and Yi Shisan, Yi Shisan and Yi Qingwu didn't say much after a brief explanation from Yi Qinghan. She silently accompanied him every day and raised the level of vigilance to the highest. Although they didn't know why Yi Qinghan was cultivating so crazily, they still insisted on it. However, since he was so persistent and found that everything was normal, not only was he normal, but his battle qi was also becoming increasingly dense. They were secretly happy for him. Due to the crazy running every day, the four of them had reached their peak speed. It was originally estimated to take 10 days, but now 5 days had passed, and they had covered more than half of the distance. During this period, it was very strange that they didn't meet any monster, barbarian, or elites from the House of Ares. They had a premonition that something big was about to happen, so they became more cautious and vigilant. Every night, they would rest near the transmission array so that they could escape through the transmission array at any time if they encountered an undefeatable situation. Chapter 119. Yi Shisan and the rest were right. Something big was happening on the battlefield. After advancing for 3 days, the battle god Abode's army was finally about to meet Yao Kaka's brute force. With the help of the Hua family scouts, the House of Ares knew the movements of the Monster Clan and Barbarian Clan in advance. They set up a net in advance and killed 300 barbarians in the morning. This battle had been fought to its heart's content. Their side had only lost a dozen or so elites, and they had almost completely wiped out the 300 or so people. Long Sinan stood at the side and frowned as she looked at the busy people cleaning up the battlefield. Today's battle seemed to have been fought beautifully, but she understood that in reality, it was a complete mess. There were more than 300 barbarians, while they had a few thousand people on their side. Furthermore, they had predicted their whereabouts in advance. Unintentionally plotting against others, they had the advantage of numbers. In the end, more than 10 barbarians died. Most importantly, the elites of the Battle God Manor, apart from their own subordinates and the 4 clans' own teams, didn't listen to their commands at all. The barbarian tribe actually rushed forward in a chaotic manner. The scene was extremely chaotic, and in the end, a barbarian emperor of the barbarian tribe took advantage of the chaos to escape. It wasn't a big deal to let a barbarian emperor escape. However, Yao Kaka and Mangon's main forces were right behind them. If they knew about this beforehand, their operation would become even more difficult. Sister, don't think too much. It's a temporary army after all. It's good enough to fight like this. Yu Qingqing stood beside Long Sinan and comforted her. Long Sinan turned to look at Yu Qingqing and asked, "Is Hua Hua Xian back yet?" "She's here." Yu Qingqing looked into the distance and smiled. Swoosh! Two figures dashed over. They were Hua Hua and Hua Xian. After the barbarian emperor escaped from the encirclement, Long Sinan immediately gave the task of killing the barbarian emperor to Flora. Hua Hua knew that Yao Kaka and barbarian clan's troops were in front. He didn't dare to be careless. He ordered the Hua family's assassins to chase after them. He and Hua Xian personally led the chase. What happened? Long Sinan looked at the two travel-worn people and asked anxiously. "He's dead." Hua Xiao's expression was not good, and her beautiful face was a bit gloomy. She paused for a moment before saying, "But I don't know if it was the barbarian emperor who sent the signal. If they knew about it, it would be even more difficult for us to stop them. Sister, don't think too much about it. After all, this is a temporary army. It's already not bad that they could fight like this." Yu Qingqing stood beside Long Sinan. She looked at Long Sinan, who was frowning, and comforted her softly. Long Sinan collected her thoughts and turned to look at Yu Qingqing. She asked, "Flower Heart hasn't returned yet? They're here, isn't that one?" Yu Qingqing looked into the distance and said with a smile, "Xiao." Two figures dashed over from afar. They were Hua Hua and Hua Xian. After the barbarian emperor escaped from the encirclement, Long Sinan immediately gave the task of killing the barbarian emperor to Flora. Hua Hua also knew that Yao Kaka's team was right in front of them. Of course, he didn't dare to be careless. He hurriedly ordered the Hua family assassins to chase after them. Then, he and Hua Xian personally led and chased after them. What happened? Long Sinan looked at the two travel-worn people and asked anxiously. "He's been killed." Hua Hua's expression didn't look good. His beautiful face was a little gloomy. He paused for a moment before he continued. "However, I don't know if the barbarian emperor sent out a signal or if Yao Kaka and the rest discovered something. The troops behind us actually stopped advancing. What should we do? Lady Long?" "Huh?" Long Sanan's worries were finally voiced. She raised her eyebrows and her eyes flickered. After a moment, she suddenly made a decision. She turned around and shouted, "All troops, listen to my command. Advance at full speed. The troops of the monster race and barbarian race are just 30 miles ahead. Chase after them and kill them all." Since the situation on her side had been exposed, there was no need to hide anymore. Long Sinan only used a moment to think through everything. After all, there were so many people on her side. It would be very difficult to hide completely. Since sneak attacks didn't work, she would advance directly. With the number of elites on her side, it was obvious that they had double the number of the troops of the monster race and barbarian race. They could definitely defeat them directly. Advance at full speed. Long Sanan's command was passed down by the leaders of the troops. Everyone was still immersed in the excitement of the massacre. Moreover, a few thousand of them killing a few hundred people wasn't satisfying enough. Once they heard that there was more ahead, they rushed forward excitedly. In an instant, the speed of the troops increased tremendously. Yao Kaka and Mangan had indeed received the news. The barbarian race had a unique way of transmitting messages. Before the barbarian emperor died, he burned all the brute force in his body to send a message to the barbarian race army that was tens of miles away. The content of the message was very short. It only mentioned the word danger. However, a barbarian emperor had risked his life to send out the word danger. This attracted enough attention from Mangan. He immediately ordered the troops to stop advancing and sent out scouts to gather information. But after a moment, the feedback made Yao Kaka and Mangan's expressions change. The House of Ares had actually gathered a large army to surround and kill them. Although they didn't know how many people the House of Ares had, they didn't know. But since the House of Ares dared to make a move, they should have enough confidence. All of Mangan and Yao Kaka pondered for a moment. Then the two of them started chattering. Although the demon race, barbarian race, and the House of Ares didn't speak the same language. Just like in different places with different dialects, the high-level demon race and barbarian race could speak the human language fluently. Because the people of the divine city were all humans, they spoke the human language. Hence, the higher-ups of the demon race and barbarian race had to learn the human language so that they could interact with the divine city in the future. The two of them discussed for a moment and decided to change the route of the troops. Of course, they couldn't go further. Who knew if the black dragon that suddenly left would continue to chase after them, as if it was crazy? Of course, they couldn't continue forward. There was a large number of humans in front of them. After discussing for a moment, they started running towards the left. They also immediately sent out a signal to gather the demon race and barbarian race within 100 miles. They knew that there was a very special terrain on the left. There was a Dwanren Peak. There were 3 cliffs there, and only one side could go up the mountain. Furthermore, the path up the mountain from this side was very narrow. It could be said to be a natural place to defend. Hence, when they found out that the House of Ares had actually sent a large army to kill them. After a short discussion, Yaokaka and Mangon decided to play this game. They used themselves as bait. At the same time, they crushed the rescue token given to them by the elders of their tribe to gather the demon race and barbarian race. They started to gather the demon race and barbarian race within 100 miles. This operation to kill Yi Qinghan had been declared a complete failure. They didn't get the divine equipment or the favor. Instead, they continuously suffered heavy casualties. Yaokaka and Mangon were very angry, and also very worried. These were all capable generals after they ascended to the throne in the future. If they returned to their tribe with their tails between their legs, then their status and reputation would be greatly reduced. Thinking about the mocking gazes of their competitors in the tribe, the two of them decided to completely ally with the demon race and barbarian race after a simple discussion. They would fight against the humans of the House of Ares together. Hence, when they received the news that the House of Ares had come to kill them, they didn't think of using the transportation formation to escape. Instead, they decided to use this opportunity to deal a heavy blow to the army of the House of Ares. To give an explanation to themselves, to their dead subordinates, and to their tribe. Since Long Sinan wanted to fight, Yaokaka and Mangon naturally wouldn't be afraid. They decided to fight Long Sinan. Chapter 120. After running madly for half an hour, Dwanren Peak was already in sight. Yaokaka's eyes flashed with a hint of excitement. He had noticed this terrain a long time ago and had personally explored it. This was a good place to escape. There were cliffs on 3 sides, and it was impossible to climb. The only path up the mountain was also very narrow. It was a good place to wait for reinforcements. When they went to the Black Dragon Valley, the two of them brought over 2,000 people. In the Black Dragon Valley, the Black Dragon's body trembled, and he was furious. Blood flowed like a river, and there were countless casualties. In the end, because the Black Dragon had mysteriously left, they were able to regroup. However, when the 2,000 people were gathered together, there were only 1,000 people left. Although there were only 1,000 people, Yaokaka was confident that with these 1,000 people, they could fight the army of the House of Ares at Dwanren Peak and hold on for at least half a month. He and Mangon had already sent out the rescue signal. He believed that in a few days, all the monster race and barbarian race on Hades Island would gather at Dwanren Peak. At that time, they would attack from the front and back and completely defeat the army of the House of Ares. Then, they would take the opportunity to lead the army in charge towards the headquarters of the House of Ares and completely secure victory. After the bald man Gon ascended Dwanren Peak, his initial doubts were completely dispelled. After carefully inspecting the terrain, he was very satisfied when he discovered that there were a few teleportation formations scattered on the peak. He decisively gave the order to defend this place and wait for reinforcements. When reinforcements arrived, they would completely defeat the army of the god of war. Long Sinan did not know that the monster race and barbarian race were not actually allied. They had only temporarily allied because of a favor from 2 Qianjun and 3 divine weapons. At that moment, the temporary allied army had completely allied with the army of the House of Ares after the army of the House of Ares had attacked. Moreover, they were currently guarding a peculiar mountain peak. Their movements were majestic, and it was obvious that they were waiting for the divine battle abode to attack. Looking at the dangerous terrain, the winding and narrow passage, and the densely packed army of the demon race and barbarian race on the top of the mountain, Long Sinan unconsciously frowned. Damn, there is such a peak? How do we attack? Feng Zi cursed loudly after he carefully sized up Duanren Peak. He could vaguely see the demon clan and the barbarian clan on the peak, and the fire in his heart burned even more fiercely. Hua Chao sighed and fell helpless. In such a dangerous terrain, there were so many demon clans and barbarians. Even if the elites of the Hua family sneaked up, they would not be of any use. This is difficult. Young Lady Long, do you have any good ideas? Even if it's hard to attack, we still have to attack. If we don't cripple them, the House of Ares can only surrender in this prefecture battle. There is no other way. Long Sinan didn't say anything, but Yu Qingqing took over the conversation. Looking at the demon race and the barbarian race who were roaring wildly on the mountaintop. Thinking of Yi Qinghan and Yi Qingwu whose life and death were still unknown, Yu Qingqing felt an inexplicable hatred in her heart that she had never felt before. Let's rest for a night. The battle will begin tomorrow. Long Sinan didn't say much. She just gave an order indifferently. Her expression was still calm, but her heart was very helpless and conflicted. She understood what Yao Kaka and Man Gan wanted to do. She also knew that this mountain peak would be difficult to attack. Even if they managed to attack, they would have to pay a heavy price. However, the arrow had to be fired. In such a situation, the House of Ares could only fight and not retreat. Otherwise, if their morale dropped, the elites of the House of Ares would be consigned to eternal damnation in this prefecture battle. Man proposes, God disposes. Long Sinan sighed slightly, turned around, and walked away. On the second day, the sky had just brightened, and Duanren Peak was bustling with noise. Both sides began to prepare their meals. Once they were full, the battle would begin. Smoke rose from the chimneys. Countless people began to get busy. Countless people began to sharpen their swords and check their equipment. The atmosphere gradually became oppressive and fanatical. Both sides were full of fighting spirit. If looks could kill, the entire Duanren Peak would have been littered with corpses and blood would have flowed like a river. Rumble. The sun rose slowly from the east. The war drums were already beating. All the swords and knives were unsheathed. Countless swords and knives reflected dazzling rays of light under the sunlight. At this moment, the wind seemed to stop flowing. The temperature gradually rose, and the entire Duanren Peak was scorching hot. Kill! Long Sinan wielded her Dragoncry sword and fiercely swung it forward. She stepped on the rugged mountain path, her entire body surrounded by battle aura. Like a goddess of war, she took the lead and charged towards Duanren Peak. Following closely behind her were all Marquis realm experts. Following Long Sinan's roar, dozens of Marquis realm experts released their battle chi at the same time. Colorful auras revolved around their bodies, making them look imposing. Behind them were all the elite disciples of the Yi family, Feng family, and Yu family. A few hundred people followed closely behind, while the rest gathered at the foot of the mountain, ready and waiting for orders. Due to the peculiar terrain here, there was only one mountain path that could fit more than 10 people abreast, so last night, Long Sinan gathered the leaders of each team and held a pre-battle meeting. She decided that the most elite would attack first. As long as they could break through the defense of the demon race and barbarian race, the elites behind would take advantage of the situation and attack. After all, such a narrow mountain path could only accommodate so many people. Rather than sending ordinary elites to their deaths, it was better to gather all the experts and attack in one fell swoop. This would disrupt the defensive formation of the demon race and barbarian race. The rest of the elites would take advantage of the situation to attack and kill the demon race and barbarian race once and for all. Boom! Boom! When the demon race and barbarian race saw the House of Ares' attack formation, They didn't panic at all. Yao Kaka and Man Gon gave a few orders, and the two races' defensive formation changed. More than 10 barbarian emperors took a step forward and blocked the mountain path like 10 tall mountains. On both sides, more than 10 demon emperors stood behind them, eyeing them like tigers watching their prey. More than 30 barbarian emperors and demon emperors formed a fan shape and completely surrounded the mountain path. Behind them, countless demon emperors and barbarian emperors surrounded them, ready to support them at any time. Yao Kaka and Man Gon smiled coldly as they looked at the countless human experts swarming towards them. They had carefully chosen the terrain to defend this place. There was a narrow path in front of them that could only allow 3 to 4 people to pass through at the same time. Thus, every time the 3 or 4 experts from the House of Ares charged up, they would face the attacks of dozens of demon emperors and barbarian emperors. Even an Emperor Realm expert wouldn't dare to face the attacks of dozens of demon emperors and barbarian emperors head-on. Long Sinan naturally discovered the terrain where the demon race and barbarian race were stationed. She also saw the narrow path in front of the demon race and barbarian race's formation. She felt bitter in her heart. However, the current situation didn't allow her to retreat. She let out a long roar, and the aura surrounding her body became denser again. She suddenly increased her speed. In midair, the sword light of the dragon cry sword exploded. It left the sword and slashed towards the barbarians in front of her. Chapter 121. The 3 Dragon City elites following closely behind Long Sinan were so scared that they broke out in a cold sweat. The young lady didn't even greet them before suddenly speeding up and charging straight into the barbarian emperors. If anything happened to them, they wouldn't even be able to atone for their sins by committing suicide. With a shout, they increased their speed and followed Long Sinan. The dozens of Marquis behind them didn't want to fall behind when they saw how fierce Long Sinan was. They brandished their swords and blades and followed. Bang! 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 The barbarian emperor's expressions didn't change in the slightest as they faced the surging sword and blade attacks of the House of Ares' Marquis. The dozen of them shouted at the same time. Their bodies suddenly lit up with yellow light, and they started to charge back against the countless sword and blade attacks. Countless sword and blade attacks slashed down on the barbarian emperor's heads. However, the released battle chi disappeared when it came into contact with the yellow light on the barbarian emperor's bodies. It didn't hurt them at all, only dimming the yellow light a little. The demon emperors on both sides didn't show any weakness. They used all kinds of demonic techniques as if they didn't cost anything. For a moment, the entire narrow opening shone brightly and explosions rang out continuously. They're actually burning brute force to form a defensive light barrier? Long Sanan's expression changed slightly. The House of Ares and the God of Barbarians residents had fought for many years and knew all the super skills of both sides like the back of her hand. The Barbarian Emperor's techniques that could resist the battle chi attacks were one of the Barbarian's super skills. Burning brute force to form a super defensive barrier. The Barbarians were born with great strength, and almost all of them could cultivate brute force. However, their cultivation was extremely slow, and it was very difficult for them to accumulate brute force. This amazing skill that burned brute force in exchange for super defense could only be learned by the Barbarian Emperors. However, normally, Barbarian Emperors wouldn't bear to use this skill. After all, using it once might consume the brute force they had accumulated for a year or two. But at this moment, the dozen or so Barbarian Emperors collectively used their brute force as if it didn't cost anything. The Barbarian Emperor's defenses were already very strong. Now that they had activated the light barrier, their defenses increased exponentially. They were like cockroaches that couldn't be killed. No matter how you attacked, you couldn't hurt them at all. Of course, if Long Sinan and the others were given time, they could slowly grind them to death. But how could the demon emperors at the side give them the time to slowly torture the Barbarian Emperor to death? Be careful. Everyone, hold your breaths. The fox demon has released its fragrance. Long Sinan dodged the iron fist of a Barbarian Emperor. Suddenly, she discovered that the air had begun to fill with a faint fragrance. This fragrance was extremely pleasant. It was faint, but it seemed to have a special magical power that attracted people to smell it. Only after sniffing it, Long Sinan had felt that her battle chi became a bit slower and her movements became extremely stiff. His heart tightened, and he snapped out of his daze. But it was already too late. By the time Long Sinan said it was a game, the dozen or so dukes who had charged forward had all sniffed it. For a moment, the experts, who had been able to dodge the attacks of the Barbarian Emperor and the Demon Emperor with ease and ferocious attacks, were all stunned. Although they failed to break through the defensive line, they did kill a few demon commanders who wanted to take advantage of the situation to launch sneak attacks. However, at this moment, their movements suddenly slowed down. A few of them started to be injured by the sneak attack of the Demon Emperor. Retreat! Long Sinan sighed helplessly and gave the order to retreat. The cooperation between the Barbarian Emperor and the Demon Emperor was quite good. The dozen or so Barbarian Emperors didn't hesitate to burn the brute force they had painstakingly cultivated in exchange for a powerful defensive barrier of light. It was like a wall that blocked their advance. Their powerful defenses could completely ignore Long Sinan's attacks. They only needed to protect their eyes, and they could rampage about without fear. Meanwhile, the dozen or so Demon Emperors all hid behind the Barbarian Emperors. Whenever they had the chance, they would launch sneak attacks. It was impossible to guard against them. Moreover, the terrain here was too narrow. They could not use their advantage in numbers at all. In the end, they were being suppressed by the Demon Emperor and Barbarian Emperor. Whoosh! 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 The flying swords of the Feng clan all floated over after Long Sinan gave the order to retreat. Of course, they had the cover of the barbarians. Moreover, they were too far away, so the flying swords could not cause too much damage. However, it was best to cover Long Sinan's retreat. Bang! 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 The barbarian emperors directly stretched out their fists and collided with the whistling flying swords, creating a loud noise. Countless flying swords were directly knocked away. However, the Demon Emperor collectively hid behind the barbarians when the flying swords came. They did not have the powerful defenses of the barbarians, so they naturally did not dare to face the flying swords head-on. Among the countless flying swords, the flying swords of the two Marquis from the Foam clan caused the most damage. They were lucky enough to kill a Demon Emperor and break the defensive barriers of several barbarian emperors. However, under the fierce attacks of the barbarian emperors, the two Marquis swordsmen of the Foam clan were also greatly injured. In the end, they embarrassingly recalled their flying swords. Long Sinan and the others did not stop at all when the flying swords came whistling over. They simply turned around and retreated. As for the Demon Emperor and Barbarian Emperor, they naturally did not dare to chase after the dozens of flying swords. They slowly retreated while blocking the flying swords. In the end, both sides stopped attacking and once again faced each other on the mountain peak and at the foot of the mountain. The battle this time was extremely short, only a few minutes, but the situation was extremely tragic and dangerous. Both sides did not suffer too many casualties. The War God clan had paid the price of heavily injuring a duke, while the Feng family's dukes and barbarians had killed a demon king and several demon commanders in a sneak attack. The result of the battle seemed to be that the House of Ares had a great advantage, but in reality, Long Sinan and Feng Zi knew that they had actually lost. They had lost completely. The House of Ares had doubled their fighting strength, so their morale was high. Meanwhile, the Demon Emperor had suffered the devastation of the Black Dragon and was currently a defeated army. Their morale had fallen to rock bottom, one attacking and one defending. The attacking side had sent out almost all their experts, but the defending side still seemed to have some strength left. At the very least, the two Demon Emperors, Yao Kaka and Mangon, did not directly participate in the battle. Most importantly, the House of Ares' ferocious attack only lasted for a few minutes before they were forced to retreat. There was a saying from the ancients, "Fight in one go." Right now, their all-out attack was completely useless. They could not even tear a small hole in the Demon Emperor and Barbarian Emperor's defensive line. There was no hope at all. This was a huge blow to the morale and confidence of the House of Aries. Damn it, the terrain of Dwanren Peak is 2F** King strange. How are we supposed to attack it like this? Fengzi had been observing carefully before and after the battle. He wanted to see if there was any way to break through this dangerous terrain, break through the Demon Emperor and Barbarian Emperor's defenses, and completely defeat them. However, after observing and thinking for a long time, he felt that this seemed to be a dead end. There was no possibility at all. He could not help but curse angrily. Huahua's pretty face was also full of worry. She looked helplessly at Dwanren Peak and sighed. Yes, this short mountain road is like a gate. If the Barbarian Emperor stands there, he will be able to hold the pass against 10,000 enemies. The main thing is that I did not expect the Barbarian Emperor to go all out this time. I reckon that after a dozen battles, the Barbarian Emperor's 10 years of hard work will be completely exhausted. It seems like they're going all out. Yu Qingqing frowned slightly. She exuded an aura called Chu Chu and said sorrowfully, "We have to attack, even if it's difficult. If we don't completely defeat them this time, we will be chased away by the two clans in a few days. When that time comes, who knows how many people will die? Pass down my order. Take a rest and continue attacking in the afternoon." Long Seinen's expression was still calm, and her eyes were still determined. However, the corner of her eye twitched slightly. Yes. The few of them nodded at the same time and looked at Dwanren Peak again. In front of them, Dwanren Peak was still like a broken blade rising from the ground, piercing through the clouds. Chapter 122. The attack in the afternoon was still as sharp as before. Long Seinen once again led the charge against the formation of the Brute race and Demon race. This time, she also added 3 vassal realm experts from the Feng and Yu families to the center of the group. This allowed them to take the opportunity to launch sneak attacks and tear open the defensive circle. As long as they could tear open a hole and let Long Seinen and the others kill their way in, the army behind them would be able to pour in endlessly and completely establish victory. However, it seemed that the Feng family swordsman's attack in the morning had alerted Yao Kaka and Mangon. The formation in the afternoon actually changed slightly. The fan-shaped defensive formation in the morning turned into an arrow attack formation. The demons and barbarians actually began to counterattack. Rows of barbarian emperors in front emitted a faint yellow halo. It was still a super defensive halo formed by burning brute force. These barbarian emperors all covered their heads with one hand and held a huge mace in the other. Regardless of whether it was enough, they charged forward and smashed randomly. Behind them were all demon emperors and demon commanders. All sorts of demonic techniques were casually released at the mountain path in front of the barbarian emperors. Long Seinen's battle aura surrounded her. She was just about to give the order to charge when she saw the barbarians and demons start to counterattack. For a moment, they panicked and didn't know what to do. As for the Yu family's Duke Realm expert's spiritual illusion, because the barbarian emperors collectively covered their heads and couldn't see their eyes, it was completely ineffective. The Feng family's flying swords were also useless, with the barbarian emperors blocking in front. They flew around a few times before helplessly retracting. In the end, the House of Aries' second attack ended with them being chased down by the demon and barbarian armies. After the battle, the House of Aries actually had a few Duke Realm experts injured, while the demons and barbarians were completely unharmed. Ow, ow, wah, and at percent, when the demon race and barbarian race saw the battle god manners people being chased down Dwanren Peak in a sorry state, they shouted together. There was arrogant laughter, disdainful curses, and mocking laughter. This caused the morale of the battle god manners people to plummet. Damn it, stop laughing. Come down if you have the guts. I'll take you all down by myself. Damn lady boy, come down here and fight me one-on-one. Yao Kaka, your father's son doesn't have an asshole. Get the F***CK down. I'll F***CK you. F***CK my son. Your mother is calling you to go back for dinner. Countless elites of the House of Aries couldn't stand the mockery and insults from the demon race and the barbarian race. They stood up, put their hands on their hips, and began to scold each other. It was just that the ordinary elites of the three sides didn't really understand each other's language. Although they could occasionally understand a little, it felt like they were in a fog. And the people behind them didn't care if they understood or not. They only cared about how happy they were with their cursing. When they were tired, someone else would continue cursing. Human race, trash, hashtag, and come on, asterisk, asterisk, percent, asterisk, asterisk, asterisk color. Thus, the third unofficial battle began. However, this time it was not a battle of real swords and spears, but a battle of words. The people from both sides had their hands in their hands and exposed their arms. One side was at the top of the mountain, while the other side was at the foot of the mountain. Each side was using their own native language to greet the other side's female clansmen. The oldest was an old lady, and the youngest was a girl who was not even a month old. The scolding was so carefree and surging. It could be said to be a great spectacle. Sister Sinan, why didn't you stop them? Listen, the more they scolded, the worse it is. I can't stand it anymore. Long Sinan immediately gave the order to rest on the spot after she started cursing. She immediately hid in the tent and ignored the situation outside. She just leisurely drank tea inside. After Yu Qingqing stopped for a while, she really couldn't stand it anymore. She went into Long Sanan's tent and pouted. They are angry. If we don't let them vent their anger, their morale will get lower and lower. Who cares about them? Fangzheng won't die. Long Sinan glanced at Yu Qingqing indifferently. She didn't think much of it and continued drinking tea. Yu Qingqing's quick-witted eyes turned and immediately understood Long Sanan's meaning. In the two battles today, their side had suffered consecutive losses. Moreover, they had fought in an extremely aggrieved and infuriated manner. Everyone was angry. Moreover, at this moment, everyone knew that it would be extremely difficult to break through the defense line of the demon race and barbarian race. Therefore, they could only use cursing to extinguish the anger in their hearts. After a moment of silence, Yu Qingqing couldn't help but cover her ears. She shook her head and sighed, but it's too unpleasant to hear. Listen, what are all these? Sigh. Long Sanan's expression also stiffened. Her heroic face started to turn slightly red. She shook her head helplessly and used her battle chi to directly seal her hearing. When the animals outside saw this, they actually began to describe the female reproductive organs of the barbarian race. They said that it was thicker than a cow's mouth, that the hair at the side was thicker than an arm, and that the hole was so deep that a cow could go in. Both of them were virgins. If you want to scold them, then scold them. How could they endure such insults? This huge battle only ended in the evening. The result was, of course, the victory of the House of Ares, which had many people and had many mouths. Everyone scolded to their heart's content, and their moods also improved. One by one, they began to cook rice and eat to their heart's content. During the meal, there were still sounds of chatter everywhere. It was as if they were bragging about how heroic, how arrogant, and how literary they were in the afternoon. This scared Long Sinan and Yu Qingqing, who were about to come out to eat, so they retreated back in fear. They no longer had any appetite. Yao Kaka and Mangan both had very good appetites. Today, they had actually fought two classic battles that could be recorded in the history books of their respective races. They were in a very good mood, and of course, their appetites were also very good. After finishing a few portions of roasted meat and a dozen bottles of wine, the two of them actually started to put their arms around each other's shoulders and called each other brothers. However, when one of them was more than 2 meters tall and the other was only a little more than 7 meters tall, they didn't look like brothers at all. Instead, they looked like father and son hugging each other. The two of them were the absolute number one of the younger generation in their respective races. Their status was almost the same. Of course, their status was much higher than that of Yi Qinghan and Fengzi. Even Long Sinan was a level lower than them. Furthermore, the two of them were almost the same in terms of strength. Therefore, after today's joint battle, the two of them were extremely close to each other. Chapter 123. Young Master Yao, today your command was amazing. This battle made me happier than getting a few virgins. Come, let's continue. Mangon opened his mouth wide and rubbed his bald head. His voice was unusually loud and clear, causing a few leaves to fall off. He, young masterman, is really willing to spend. Today's 2 battles have probably used up all the brute force that your subordinates have been training for a year. Yao Kaka laughed heartily as he swung his dazzling golden hair in a pleased manner. He gave Mangon a thumbs up as he laughed. As long as we can win this battle, it's fine even if we use up all their brute force. Even if they use up all their brute force, can't they train again? When I get back, I'll ask my father for some treasures to compensate them. All right, do you think the people we secretly sent back to deliver the message will be intercepted by the House of Ares? Mangon waved his hand and said nonchalantly. The hierarchy in the barbarian tribe was very strict. As the young tribe leader of the barbarian tribe, he could not make a dozen barbarian emperors burn their brute force. Even if he asked them to commit suicide, they would not dare to not die. Therefore, he didn't feel any guilt or guilt. Instead, he was a little worried that the dozen or so subordinates they had sent out yesterday would be intercepted by the battle god's residents when they returned to their own camps to get reinforcements. They knew that today's battle was a complete victory for them. But if there were no reinforcements for a long time, they would be trapped here and die. Yao Kaka gulped down a jug of wine and wiped his mouth. He said nonchalantly, "It's fine. It's fine even if all of them are killed. You and I have already activated the rescue tokens we brought. I believe it won't be long before all the nearby tribesmen know about the situation here. Sending them out is to attract the attention of the House of Ares. If 1 or 2 of them manage to escape, then the reinforcements will arrive faster. Don't worry, I have other arrangements. You will know when the time comes. In 3 to 5 days, at most 10 days, the reinforcements will definitely arrive. Let's play with them for these few days." The day the reinforcements arrive will be the day we trample over the House of Ares. Mangon laughed and raised his cup. He was in a good mood. Yi Qinghan was also in a good mood. Even though he was physically and mentally exhausted from running and cultivating for several days straight. However, feeling the rolling battle chi droplets in his dantian, he couldn't help but feel bad. In only a few days, the battle chi droplets that he had accumulated before had almost filled up his dantian. Before reaching the general realm, cultivation was very simple. If it was someone with extraordinary talent, they might only need a few months to a year to break through to the general realm. Cultivation before the general realm completely depended on one's physique. Geniuses with very few blockages in their meridians could easily break through them. For example, Yi Dao, Yi Qingwu, and Yi Qingquan. As for cultivation after the general realm, it would depend on personal effort and comprehension. The cultivation of the general realm ultimately depended on one's diligence. Constantly absorbing the spiritual chi in the world and turning it into battle chi in one's body, then compressing the accumulated battle chi in one's dantian and turning it into battle chi droplets that filled the entire dantian. Then, through the battle chi droplets, one would expand the dantian and completely fit the dantian acupoint. Only then would one reach the general realm. This process was very tedious, complicated, and boring. Therefore, many people would stay in this realm for 2 to 3 years. For example, Hua Hua and Feng Zi had stayed in this realm for more than a year. After a few months on Nether Island, they were still in the 3rd level of the general realm. Yi Qinghan was much more diligent in cultivation than Feng Zi and Hua Hua. However, he had only broken through to the general realm a few months ago. On the way to Dragon City, he had just broken through to the general realm. After coming to Nether Island, he kept cultivating whenever he had time. A while ago, he barely reached the 2nd level of the general realm. Over the past few days, with the enormous energy from the Dragon Crystal, Yi Qinghan had actually broken through to the 3rd level of the general realm. As long as he continued to accumulate battle chi droplets, expand his dantian, and completely fuse it with the dantian acupoint, he would be able to break through to the general realm. At this moment, the overflowing energy from his chest was still surging into his meridians. Yi Qinghan believed that as long as this state lasted for 1 more day, he would definitely be able to break through to the general realm. Xiaohe had obviously made significant progress during this period of cultivation. At this moment, he was also crazily absorbing the energy from the dragon crystal. When the time came, the two of them would probably finish absorbing the energy from the dragon crystal at the same time. Yi Qinghan was absolutely confident that he could instantly kill any first or second level Duke Realm expert with the body fusion battle skill and soul dizziness. Of course, he wasn't so confident about killing a third level Demon Emperor or peak Barbarian Emperor martial artist. After all, this kind of martial artist cultivation was already extremely terrifying. Moreover, they had already started to study the laws of heaven and earth. Their soul cultivation was probably very high. Run, cultivate, cultivate. Yi Qinghan once again experienced a painful yet joyful life that he hadn't experienced in a long time. After running crazily for several days, his muscles began to ache and burn. His spirit was also very tired, both physically and mentally. However, he knew that anyone would risk their lives to seize such an opportunity. Yi Qinwu was also very tired. As Yi Qinyo's precious granddaughter, she had been treated like a treasure since she was young. She had never been so tired, nor had she suffered so much. However, every time she glanced at the handsome youth in front of her and saw him madly running ahead, she would forcefully lift her slightly swollen legs and continue to follow. She was a first-level martial expert. How could she lose to a brat from her clan? Moreover, this brat was a youth that she admired. Yi Shursen was naturally tired as well, but he was only slightly tired. The powerful strength of a third-level duke made this level of running very easy for them. However, such boring running made him feel somewhat tired. However, when his tired eyes glanced at Yi Qinghan beside him, he suddenly felt energized. With his powerful soul perception, he could clearly sense that the battle aura within Yi Qinghan's body was constantly strengthening. In just a few short days, he had broken through from the first level to the third level of the general realm, and it was still growing. Yi Shursan recalled the time Xiaohe had stayed in the Black Dragon Valley. Although he hadn't discovered the existence of the dragon crystal when he returned, he couldn't help but become suspicious. However, he couldn't help but suspect that Yi Qinghan was refining the dragon crystal or absorbing its energy when he broke through to the third level of the general stage the previous day. That was why he was certain that Yi Qinghan was refining the dragon crystal or absorbing its energy. Chapter 124. This world was very special. There were numerous treasures. Of course, there were treasures that could increase one's battle chi, such as medicinal pills. Snow Panacea of Shui clan was a famous medicinal pill that could increase one's battle chi absorption speed. However, the only treasure he knew of in this world that could directly elevate a first-grade general to third-grade general in just a few days and still continue to elevate was the dragon crystal. Only when a giant dragon laid eggs would there be a very small chance that a dragon crystal would appear. Dragon crystals were very heaven-defying treasures. They contained extremely pure and vast amounts of energy. It could raise a newborn dragon's strength to that of a level 5 magical beast in a short period of time. Furthermore, the young dragon that swallowed the dragon crystal would have a high chance of breaking through its parent's rank after it matured. For example, the black dragon would have a chance to mutate into a holy beast. Now that he had confirmed that Yi Qinghan was refining the dragon crystal and that his strength was increasing rapidly, Yi Shursan was naturally excited. The dragon crystal was obtained by Xiaohe, so of course, they did not dare to hope that Xiaohe would refine it for him. Moreover, even if they obtained the dragon crystal, it would eventually be refined by Yi Qinghan. Why? This was a very simple question. That was because Yi Qinghan had a holy beast and a heaven-defying fusion skill. Although Yi Qinghan's current strength was still very weak to them, and they could kill him easily. However, once Yi Qinghan grew up, he would definitely become a figure that could stand shoulder to shoulder with the Yi family's founding ancestor, the Night Emperor. Even ancestor Yi Ruoshui paled in comparison. After all, ancestor Yi Ruoshui did not have such a heaven-defying and awesome fusion battle technique. He was imagining how Yi Qinghan would defeat all the experts from the God of Monsters and the god of barbarians after he grew to the saint realm. His soul was so excited that it was trembling. Therefore, although he was a little tired, his spirit was getting better and better. Even Knight 17, who was scouting in the distance, was running more cheerfully. At this time, they were close to the chaotic battlefield. Of course, they did not want to let down their guard. They also increased the distance of their scouting. Once they encountered the barbarian tribe, or the demon tribe, they would immediately escape with Yi Qinghan and Yi Qingwu. The two of them were at the second or third level of the Marquis realm. If neither of them escaped with another person, no one would be able to stop them. Long Sinan was a little annoyed. Her expression, which had always been calm and steady, also became slightly gloomy. 3 days, 3 whole days. She organized more than 10 attacks, but they were all blocked by Yao Kaka and Brutgon. After 2 failed attacks on the first day, she changed her strategy on the second day. She decided to forcefully break through the barbarians' defensive perimeter regardless of the casualties. She began to send people to forcefully attack at all times. She mixed the ordinary elites and Marquis realm experts together and took turns attacking the defensive perimeter to exhaust the barbarian king's brute strength. She knew that in order to break through the defense line that was like an iron wall halfway up the mountain, she had to completely exhaust the brute strength of the barbarian kings. Otherwise, as long as the stone pillars were still shining with a yellow light, her people would never be able to break through the defensive perimeter and completely stop the demon tribe and the barbarian tribe on the mountain. Therefore, she began to carry out the bloody battle plan. Regardless of the casualties, she did not care about the price. Through continuous fighting, she exhausted the barbarian king's brute strength. Only 3 days had passed, but the dozen or so stone pillars at the waist of the mountain were still shining with a faint yellow light. They stood there like 10 insurmountable mountains. Therefore, she was very angry. Her expression was no longer as calm and collected as before. Instead, she began to feel slightly anxious. In 3 days, she had sacrificed the lives of hundreds of elite disciples. She had only killed a few dozen people from the demon tribe and the barbarian tribe. Moreover, most of these people were disciples of Dragon City. How could she be in a good mood? How could her expression not be bad? Swoosh! A figure flashed by and pulled Long Sanan's thoughts back to reality. She took a few deep breaths and twisted the muscles on her face so that she did not look so bad. It was Flora. She had a beautiful face, but she looked travel-worn. Furthermore, she did not look too good. Flora did not exchange any pleasantries. Her face darkened, and she said anxiously, "There is news from 100 miles to the left. A large number of the demon tribe and the barbarian tribe have begun to gather. I estimate that in at most 5 days, a large number of the demon tribe and the barbarian tribe will arrive here. We only have 3 days. After 3 days, regardless of whether we succeed or not, we must retreat." The news brought by Flora made Long Sinan, who had finally calmed down, change her expression again. Although she had expected that the demon tribe and the barbarian tribe would definitely know about the situation here and would come to help. However, she did not expect that the demon tribe and the barbarian tribe would receive the news so quickly. Moreover, they did not come alone, but gathered together. It was obvious that the news here had been leaked immediately. Thinking about the dozen demon tribe and the barbarian tribe scouts that were killed a few days ago, Long Sinan shook her head helplessly and said, 3 days. Do your best. I hope that the god of war can protect your people. Attack, attack. Attack at all costs. Attack at all costs. That night, the House of Ares held another pre-war meeting and reported the latest information to the leaders of the teams. When everyone learned that the demon tribe and the barbarian tribe would arrive in a few days, their expressions changed. At the same time, they unanimously agreed to annihilate the demon tribe and the barbarian tribe in the valley at all costs. Most of the higher-ups of the demon tribe and the barbarian tribe were gathered on Duanren Peak. The only way for the House of Ares to ensure the failure of the alliance between the demon tribe and the barbarian tribe was to annihilate them. Otherwise, all the elites of the House of Ares would be consigned to eternal damnation. They had no choice but to fight and burn their boats. If they did not win, they would die. They had no choice but to use their lives to pave a way out. The low and dull sound of the war drums disturbed the tranquility of the morning. The sun had not risen yet, but the nether island was foggy. Through the thick white fog, the Dwanren peak in front of them was faintly discernible. It was like a giant beast baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. It sat there cross-legged, revealing its ferocious claws and teeth. Kill. Long Synan was dressed in a red robe, looking valiant and heroic. She suddenly pointed the Dragoncry sword in her hand at the peak. Countless elites of the House of Ares began to surge towards the winding path in the middle of the peak in the thick white fog. At the foot of the mountain, rows of elites were all equipped with sabers and armors, ready to replace the troops in front of them at any time. They continued to pour out their hot blood and use their bodies to pave a way for the elites behind them. Young master, help me summon my old parents. Brothers, remember to burn more paper money for me every month. My expenses are very high. I heard that the price of goods in the netherworld is rising rapidly. Tell my second sister-in-law next door that I've always had a crush on her. Also, tell her to close the windows when she showers. Old 6, remember to pay off the debt from the lovely spring brothel. Also, tell Fong Fong not to let her guests owe money in the future. Not everyone has a conscience as good as mine. Chapter 1:25. The first to attack were the sacrificial soldiers of Dragon City and the few great families. They all knew that in today's battle, they would undoubtedly die, so they didn't feel too much worry, anger, or sorrow. Instead, they calmly made arrangements for their deaths, and then with a smile, they rushed up the mountain path. Although Long Synan and the young masters of the clans had promised that their families and friends would be well taken care of, people always wanted to say something before they died. Although it was a little naggy, a little childish, and a little funny, they didn't care anymore. Yao Kaka and Man Gon's expressions, which had been calm for many days, finally changed as they faced the battle god's residence's relentless assault. The Berserker emperors of the Berserker tribe could be said to have used up their strength like water under such continuous attacks. If this continued, these Berserker emperors would be exhausted to death before reinforcements arrived. At that time, who would be able to resist Long Synan and the dozens of powerful dukes of the Divine War Manor? They had no choice but to send these barbarian emperors to the second line of defense. The first line of defense was blocked by the remaining 1,000 ordinary elites. Both sides entered a melee battle. It became a battle of attrition. If the House of Ares sent out Marquis, they would send the barbarian emperors. And if the House of Ares sent out ordinary elites, they would also send out ordinary elites to fight. Long Synan had no choice but to continuously send out ordinary elites to attack. This was because the House of Ares had no other choice but to fight their way out. The monster race and the barbarian race were on the defensive side and had the geographical advantage. Although both sides had suffered countless casualties, the House of Ares had obviously suffered more. The crooked little Taoist path was already covered in dark red blood. Countless injured people were carried down, and countless corpses were thrown down. Countless broken limbs and pieces of flesh covered the entire mountainside. This battle lasted from morning until late at night. The number of people who had died on both sides had already exceeded 1,000. The entire Dwanren Peak was filled with the pungent smell of fresh blood. The rotting stench of corpses that had been exposed to the sun was emitted. Therefore, the humans, monsters, and barbarians were all in a killing frenzy. Their hearts were cold, and their weapons were drawn. Dong! 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 The drums of the House of Ares sounded in the middle of the night. The attack had stopped. Dwanren Peak was still standing quietly in the night. The barbarian tribe and the monster tribe did not come out to roar and laugh at them again. The three clans seemed to have gotten tired of killing and were about to leave. All of them silently returned to the camp, collected the corpses, and cremated them together. It was also late at night, but no one was sleepy. Even the injured struggled to get up, standing together among the cremated corpses in silence. The person who was still alive and kicking during the day was now lying quietly in a deep sleep. The raging flames illuminated everyone's eyes illuminating the sorrow in their eyes, illuminating the trace of hatred hidden deep in their eyes. Tonight was destined to be a sleepless night for many. The night had just receded, but the people of the House of Ares had already woken up. Perhaps they hadn't slept at all. They stared at the towering Dwanran peak. They picked up the swords in their hands again and continued their unfinished journey, which they didn't know if they would be able to complete. Stop! We can't go any further. Yi Qinghan and the other two were also completing their journey, but it was a journey of running. However, this afternoon, Yi 17, who had been scouting ahead, suddenly turned around with a shocked expression. He waved at the three of them and roared as if he had encountered something big. Eh! The three of them quickly stopped. Although Knight 17 was usually a bit mischievous, he wouldn't do something like this. So they had a bad feeling in their hearts, as if something big was about to happen. They looked at Knight 17 in a daze and began to listen to his explanation. Yi 17 panted heavily and said with a lingering fear, "We found a large number of barbarians 20 kilometers ahead. There are at least 1,000 or 2,000 of them." Ah! They were surrounded again? The three of them looked at each other. Their first thought was that they had been surrounded by the barbarians and monster tribe again. However, after a moment, they rejected this speculation. There were only a few of them, so there was no need to mobilize thousands of people to kill them. Furthermore, Yi 13th and Yi 17 were both Marquis realm experts. If they were surrounded by ordinary soldiers, then even double their numbers would be useless. Have you scouted the left and right? Did you find any barbarians or monster tribe? After a short period of shock, Yi 13th regained his composure and began to carefully inquire about the situation. I didn't go. When I found the barbarians and monster tribe up ahead, I wanted to tell you immediately. Where would I have the time to scout the surroundings? Yi 17 said as he rubbed his head. Yi 13's eyes flickered a few times as he decisively ordered Yi 17. Quickly go and scout the other 3 directions. We will wait for you here. I will give you 20 minutes. Although Yi 17 was a bit puzzled, he had always carried out Yi 13's orders seriously. Without another word, he turned into a shadow and quickly disappeared before the 3 of them. We aren't running? After Yi 17 left, Yi 13th was not overly nervous. He just told Yi Qinghan to sit cross-legged and continue to cultivate while he leisurely observed the surrounding scenery. Yi Qingwu asked doubtfully, "If my guess is correct, there should be no problem. Take a rest. When 17 comes back, you will know." Yi 13 smiled slightly, as if he didn't need to worry about Yi Qingwu. The other 3 directions are safe. 10 minutes later, Yi 17 returned. He brought back a piece of news that Yi 13th had expected. Yi 13th nodded and asked again, "Did you carefully observe the direction of the barbarian army just now?" Yi 17 thought for a moment and said with a frown, I didn't pay attention. There were too many people, and it was a bit chaotic. I didn't dare to get close, but it seems that most of them are moving to our left." Yes, the left. The 2 barbarian emperors leading them are moving to the left. Left? The left is the center of the chaotic battlefield. What are they going to do with so many people? Yi 13th murmured. He fell silent and began to carefully calculate and think. However, after thinking for a while, he still couldn't figure it out. After a long time, he suddenly raised his head and said, "Let's take it slow. I think something big is going to happen. Otherwise, the barbarians wouldn't have gathered such a large army. 17th, I will have to trouble you for the next few days. Pay close attention to the movements of the barbarian army and pay attention to the situation around us. We will follow them from a distance and see what they are up to." Okay. Yi 17 nodded and did not say anything else. He then fled again. Chapter 126. Young Master Han. How much longer do you need to cultivate? Yi Shursan's figure gradually disappeared in front of them. Yi Shursan turned his head and said directly to Yi Qinghan. Hearing Yi Shursan's question, Yi Qinghan opened his eyes, thought for a moment, and said, "Tomorrow." The energy overflowing from his chest had slowly slowed down. He estimated that the energy overflowing from his chest would stop by tomorrow at the latest. At this moment, his Dantian had almost fused with his Dantian acupoint. He had information that after cultivating in the afternoon and attacking at night, he would completely fuse his Dantian and Dantian acupoint tonight and enter the martial realm. So he didn't say much. He simply said 2 words and continued to cultivate with his eyes closed. Then let's rest for an hour, and then we'll slowly catch up with the barbarian army and see what they are plotting. Yi Shursen nodded, gave a few simple instructions to the 2, and then went to stand guard. An hour later, Yi Qinghan and the other 2 began to slowly move forward, closely following the barbarian and monster army. The energy overflowing from Yi Qinghan's chest was not as turbulent as before, so he only needed to slowly circulate his battle chi and slowly bring the overflowing energy into his Dantian. Therefore, they were not as busy as they were a few days ago. Instead, they walked slowly and leisurely, guessing where the barbarian army was going. What were they going to do? Long Sinan, of course, knew where the barbarian army was going and what they were going to do. After a few days of investigation by the Hua family scouts, it was clear that this barbarian army was only one of the 2 foreign tribes that had come to help. The actual number was about 2,000, and there was also a monster army of about 2,500 people in the west. They would reach Duanren Peak in 2 days. Therefore, they only had 1 day left. After 1 day, if they had not reached the top of Duanren Peak, they would have to retreat. They retreated frantically back to the stronghold, and then continued to retreat until they reached their temporary base camp. If the Demon Clan and the Barbarian Clan joined forces to encircle them, the elites of the House of Ares would be hunted down like stray dogs on the Netherworld Island until the end of the battle. Watching the elites of the House of Ares retreat like the tide, Long Sinan let out a deep sigh and shook her head helplessly. His face had long since lost his usual composure and heroic spirit. Instead, there was a trace of desolation and helplessness that was difficult to conceal. Sister Sinan, what should we do? If we can't take it by tomorrow evening, we'll have to retreat. Otherwise, we'll be surrounded by the Demon Clan and the Barbarian Clan. We won't even have a chance to retreat. Yu Qingqing's face was also filled with deep loneliness and worry. Yi Qinghan had been missing for half a month, and there was no news at all. She knew that with Yi 13th and 17th by his side, there shouldn't be any problems. However, it had been half a month without any news, so he was a little worried. Moreover, now that the House of Ares had suffered consecutive defeats, their future was bleak. She didn't know what to do. She knew that with Yu Xinggu by his side, and she had the treasure bestowed by the Patriarch, protecting her life shouldn't be a problem. However, if the House of Ares was completely defeated, the hundreds of elite disciples of the Yu clan would probably not be able to escape the fate of death. No matter how strong or weak a woman was, she was still a woman. When she was helpless and at a loss, she would think of the man she loved, the man she could rely on by her side. Although she wasn't sure if she had fallen in love with that weak youth at this moment, she wanted Yi Qinghan by his side, even if they had to escape together and wander around the Netherworld Island. We have no way to retreat. In tomorrow's battle, if we don't succeed, we die. Our backs are against the river, and we die without a fight. Let's fight for the last time tomorrow. Whether we succeed or not depends on the heavens. A trace of determination flashed in Long Sanan's eyes. This battle was organized by her, so she had to be responsible for these thousands of people. Too many people had died in the past few days. On her side, more than 1,000 people had died in battle. There were also a few hundred people lying in temporary tents with heavy injuries. On her side, there were only about 2,000 people who had complete fighting strength. If they could kill all of the 1,000 monster and barbarian higher-ups on Duanren Peak, they might have a chance to survive. However, she didn't know that there were several teleportation arrays on the small Duanren Peak. If Yao Kaka and Man Gon wanted to escape, they only needed to send people to block the path for a few hours, and the higher-ups on Duanren Peak would be able to escape through the teleportation arrays. However, Man Gon and Yao Kaka had fought fiercely for the past few days, and more than half of the 2,000 people on their side had died, but they didn't choose to escape through the teleportation arrays. Instead, the more they fought, the more excited and ferocious they became. Nonsense. With such good terrain, if 1,000 monster and barbarian soldiers died, at least 1,500 people from the House of Ares would die. Only a fool wouldn't do such a good deal. The House of Ares only had these few elites left. Rather than wasting a lot of time chasing after them in the future, they might as well let them stay here forever. Swish, swish. At this moment, behind Dwanren Peak, there was a sound of something piercing through the air. It caused the monster and barbarian soldiers who were on guard to scream in fear. F*CKU. We are on the same side. If you alert the House of Ares, I will eat you all alive. Yao Kaka shouted at his subordinates immediately. His face revealed an expression of surprise. He looked at the blurry figure in the night sky and let out a deep breath. Greetings, Your Excellency. I am late. Please forgive me. The black figure was extremely fast. Under the shocked gazes of the monster and barbarian soldiers, it pierced through the air and landed in front of Yao Kaka. It knelt down on one knee. What kind of monster was this? Mangon looked at the completely black monster in front of him. Its body was covered in long spear hairs, and it had a pair of long wings on its back. He was shocked. Then, as if he had thought of something, he shouted as if he had seen a ghost. Winged bird monster? Damn it! Weren't the winged bird monsters exterminated 1,000 years ago? What the hell? The corners of Yao Kaka's mouth curled up into a happy smile. He smiled mysteriously at Mangon and nodded at the winged bird monster. He said, Ife, you are late by 2 days. You must have arranged everything. Your Excellency, everything has been arranged. This time, the few thousand people from the House of Ares are destined to stay here forever. Ife opened his mouth and revealed a ferocious face that was covered in hair. He laughed terrifyingly. When Yao Kaka heard this, he laughed loudly. His golden hair swayed in the wind. His entire body emitted a brutal and terrifying aura like that of a ferocious beast. He laughed loudly and said, good. I will remember this. This time, I want Long Sinan to die without a place to be buried. Chapter 127. Young Master Yao, do you have any other plans? Mangon was confused by the side. He couldn't help but rub his bald head in confusion. His fist-sized eyes slowly turned as he asked Yao Kaka, You'll know after tomorrow. Young Master Man, don't worry. I've killed all the elites of the Divine Battle Abode. This is a great contribution, and it's enough for my tribe to remember it. I won't be stupid enough to kill your barbarian tribe's army. Besides, I don't have the ability to do so. Although the barbarian race and the demon race have a deep hatred for each other on this nether island, we are absolute allies. Yao Kaka seemed to feel Mangon's worry. He immediately patted his chest and promised. He didn't want to make Mangon suspicious. Otherwise, his many days of planning would be for naught. Seeing Mangon nod his head in satisfaction, Yao Kaka then said, Young Master Man, your tribe's army will arrive here the day after tomorrow. Do you want to send someone to command them? If necessary, Ife can bring him over. Although Ife looks small, he should have no problem bringing a barbarian. All right, man, Sean, you go with this demon race brother. Take my token, and you can command the entire barbarian race army. I want you to bring your men here at full speed. Then, we will surround and kill the elites of the House of Ares. This time, we must kill them all. Mangon pointed at a barbarian king behind him and indicated for him to follow Ife. Then he took out a golden token from his golden leather armor and threw it to the barbarian king. Ife bowed to Yao Kaka. Then he flapped his 2 huge wings and stretched out his 2 furry hands. He grabbed Manshan and disappeared into the dark night. It was late at night, but Yi Qinghan didn't feel sleepy. Not only him, but even Yi 13th and 17th Yi Qingwu didn't feel sleepy at all. The 4 of them huddled together on an ancient tree. Yi Qinghan sat cross-legged in the middle while the other 3 stood by his side to protect him. When night fell, the barbarian race army stopped advancing and set up camp to rest. They also found a secluded place more than 20 miles behind the barbarian army and began to rest. However, after a hasty dinner, Yi Qinghan very cautiously asked the three of them to stand guard for him. He was going to break through to the martial realm tonight, and it was very likely that he would succeed, so he couldn't afford to make any mistakes and couldn't be disturbed in the slightest. Yi Shisan and the other two were shocked, but they did not dare to be careless. After carefully checking the situation, they surrounded Yi Qinghan and began to protect him. Cultivation in the general realm was very arduous. It took a lot of time and energy to accumulate a large amount of battle chi. At this moment, thanks to the pure energy of the dragon crystal, Yi Qinghan was lucky enough to skip half of the process. He directly began to complete the final step, which was to completely fuse his Dantian and Dantian acupoints. After reaching the Commander realm, the warriors in the House of Aries had opened up all the meridians in their bodies and condensed their Dantian, which allowed the warriors in the House of Aries to have a place to store and transform their battle chi, greatly increasing the abundance of battle chi in their bodies. However, the newly condensed Dantian was very small and unstable. This was because the newly condensed Dantian only had 2 points on the Dantian acupoints. The cultivation in the general realm would further accumulate battle chi, turning it into a liquid state and increasing its quantity. Moreover, the Dantian would continue to expand until it completely fused with the Dantian acupoints. Because the warriors in the martial realm had more abundant battle chi and their Dantian was more stable, they could and dared to use more battle chi each time. Of course, their lethality would definitely be greater. After the martial realm, the warriors needed to slowly condense the liquid battle chi in their bodies into solid battle chi and condense the Dantian core. Once the Dantian core operated, the speed of the battle chi would be several times faster, and the attack would be more fierce. The gaseous state was the liquid state, and the solid state. Although the place to store battle chi was the Dantian, the quantity and quality of battle chi were 100 times different, and the power was also different. Therefore, warriors in higher realms could completely suppress warriors in lower realms. Today, with the surging energy of the dragon crystal, Yi Qinghan finally completely accumulated the liquid battle chi in his Dantian. As long as he successfully fused the Dantian tonight, he would be able to step into the martial realm. However, fusing the Dantian required fine details. He needed to slowly pierce the surface of the Dantian acupoints with battle chi, and then let them slowly fuse with each other under the nourishment of battle chi. This was a bit dangerous, mainly because if he was disturbed when he pierced the surface of the Dantian, the surging battle chi would completely burst the Dantian. Finally, the chaotic battle chi would surge all over the body, destroying all the meridians in the body, and finally exploding the body to death. Therefore, under normal circumstances, a warrior would choose an absolutely safe and quiet place to break through each realm. However, it was impossible to find such a place at this time and place. Therefore, Yi Shisan and Yi 17 were fully focused, constantly scanning the surroundings with battle chi surrounding them, ready to deal with any unexpected situation. Shisan, young Master Han, must have refined the dragon crystal, but didn't Xiaohei say that it would take 1 or 2 years to refine the dragon crystal? How did he succeed in just a few days? Also, young Master Han's realm improvement is too terrifying. TSK, a 16-year-old martial realm powerhouse. With his strength, I'm afraid all the old fogies in the family will be scared to death. After looking around, Yi 17 glanced at Yi Qinghan, who was surrounded by battle chi. A trace of admiration flashed in his eyes, and he turned to Yi Shisan and transmitted his voice to him. Yi Shisan didn't hide his love and admiration for Yi Qinghan. After sensing the surroundings with his soul, he transmitted his voice in doubt. I'm not sure about this. It's true that it takes 1 or 2 years to refine the dragon crystal. I remember that in the information I obtained about the dragon crystal, it also said this. I think only young Master Han can explain the specifics. A 16-year-old martial realm martial artist is indeed the #1 genius in the House of Aries in the past century. If he can return safely this time, the Earth ranking will be refreshed again. Based on young Master Han's age and strength, he is definitely number 1 on the Earth ranking. The Earth ranking was like a rising star in the House of Aries. Anyone under the age of 30 could enter the ranking. However, it wasn't based on strength, but based on age, realm, and other comprehensive strength. They were ranked according to their potential. For example, Yi Qinghuang was 25 years old and was at the 3rd level of the general realm. With his 7th grade battle beast, his overall strength could reach the 1st level of the martial realm, so he was ranked in the dozens. For example, Yi Qingwu was 20 years old and had reached the 1st level of the martial realm. With her 7th grade battle beast, her overall strength could reach the 3rd level of the martial realm, so she was ranked 6th. For example, Long Sainan was 28 years old and was at the peak of the Duke realm. She had 1 foot in the Emperor realm and was the undisputed number 1 on the Earth ranking. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.